get this race underway.
Drivers, start your engines, please.
Giving the command to start the engines was R.K. Siegel, Commissioner of the Georgia Department of Industry, Trade and Tourism. And those racing engines must now scream for the next 10 hours. 2 years ago, this was the significant happening of the first Petit Le Mans. Yannick Dalmas flips backwards and destroys the factory Porsche. Last year, within sight of victory, the leading BMW, driven by Jörg Müller, made a huge mistake and flew off the road, handing the victory to the hometown heroes of Panos Motorsports. Who will make the headlines this year? We'll know only after 10 grueling hours or 1,000 miles of battle. Welcome to Braselton, Georgia, just north of Atlanta, where today we will enjoy round 9 of the American Le Mans Series. Now this is a physical, mental and mechanical battle between the world's top sports car teams, reaching for the ultimate bragging rights. Hello everybody and welcome to the signature event of the year, the Petit Le Mans. Derek Daly here alongside multiple sports car champion Dorsey Schrader. And Dorsey, today we're in the midst of this great championship fight between BMW, who by dint of consistency have led this championship just about all year long, and Audi. And the Audi freight train, Dorsey, is so hard to stop right now.
Incredibly hard to stop, you're right about that. They started their season 12 hours of Sebring. They won that race on their debut. On to the ultimate 24-hour Le Mans. 1, 2, 3 finish for Audi. They've won the last 4 races in a row. But what about here at Road Atlanta? Well, how about this? They've been fast in every session. Pole position, new track record.
Oh, they have been mighty here every session all weekend. Now we're going to have 3 pit reporters during the course of this 10 hours or 1,000 miles. With the first of those, let's go to Calvin Fish with more on the Audi story. Calvin?
Thanks, Derek. Well, as you mentioned, Dorsey, the Audis have certainly been fast here this weekend, but when they won Sebring and Le Mans this year, they had data that they accumulated from last year's car. They've never competed here at the Petit Le Mans. Reinhold Jost stands by moments before the start. Reinhold, does that give you any concerns here this afternoon?
Yes, we're very happy. We found a really drivable setup, and all the driver is happy with the Audi car, and also the complete Audi team is happy we can present this nice car in this country. And I hope, and also I want to thank God for the nice weather today. And you know, the race is very, very long, and I hope we are lucky today and can win again.
Well, Audi will certainly start the race as favourites, but there's a lot of competition in the field. For more on that, let's go down to Andrew Marriott.
Yes, certainly, Calvin. We mustn't discount the Panos team. Of course, they did win the race last year. And David Brabham in particular is absolutely at the top of his game. I think he's going to keep them very honest. Let's look at strategy. We expect the first stop about 38 laps, 40 laps, and we expect them to double stint the tyres. So about 3/4 of an hour of racing to go ahead. And also remember that last year there wasn't a yellow. It will be a factor. There wasn't a yellow until 3.5 hours into the race.
Andrew, please get off the racetrack. You can't get much closer than that. Let's take a look at our Audi track map. And Dorsey, this is a fascinating racetrack here at Road Atlanta.
Road Atlanta is a 2.5-mile roller coaster that you can fall off of. A lot of elevation change. Speeds over 190 miles per hour. This is going to be a great day for racing.
And I'd like to extend a warm welcome to the 3rd member of our pit crew this afternoon, a new member to Speed Vision here in road racing, Sandy Heng. Sandy?
Well, take it easy on me, Derek, but we've been talking all season about the duel between the Corvettes and the Vipers, where there is a new untested element here today. That is, the Corvette debuted a new chassis back in Mosport. Well, it's run a couple of races, but they're essentially sprints. This is the first endurance test for this chassis. Also, you've got to remember the Viper gets better fuel economy, and that could be a big story today down here in the pits.
Indeed, Sandy, that's been a great story all season long, Viper versus Corvette. Now let's go quickly to our Dodge starting lineup. And there is the man that some people think is the best sports car driver in the world right now, Alan McNish on the pole, and beside him his teammate Emanuele Pirro, total domination. Row 2 headed by David Brabham with the first of the Panos cars, and then the BMW headed by JJ Leto. Row 3, we have Klaus Graf in the second of the Paynos cars, and beside him, Jean-Marc Gugnon, the second of the BMWs. Move back to row 4, headed by Mimo Schiattarella, the first of the Lola prototypes. Beside him, Mark Goosens, the fastest of the Cadillacs. Eric Bernard heads inside row 5. Beside him, the first of the Reynard cars, headed by Guy Smith. And then move back to row 6, Max Angelelli heads inside row 6, and Andy Wallace's teammate right beside him. Row 7, we have Franz Conrad, another Lola prototype. Beside him, good run here for John Field. Row 8, Ron Fellows, and here's the fight. The Corvette GTS. Beside him is his teammate, Andy Pilgrim. And then right behind them, there the Vipers are. Olivier Beretta heads up inside row 9, and beside him, David Donahue. And then we have row 10, headed by Tommy Archer and Xavier Pompidou in another Dodge GTS. Row 11, we have Zach Brown in the Porsche GTS. Beside him, Randy Popes, who did a great job at Indy just last weekend. Row 12, Lucas Luhr, and this is the powerhouse team here in the GT division. Beside him, BMW, run by Boris Said. Now, as you look at the rest of the field, headed by Sasha Masson and Brian Cunningham here, Dorsey, we have had just glorious sunshine here. Do we have better conditions for flat-out racing for 10 hours?
Derek, I can't remember a better day than this day here at Road Atlanta. The fans are out by the thousands. It looks great. The competition, unbelievable. Set for a really good race.
People rolled in here till 3 o'clock this morning to get their prime position. They're in campers, they're in motorhomes, they're camped on the ground. As we go to our onboard cameras, and we have a load of them for you today. First one here is number 7. This is driven by Boris Said, one of the BMWs. You see Hans Stuck and Johannes van Overbeek will team with him. Next one is number 5. Dick Barber's car, led by Lucas Luhr, and Dirk Mueller will jump into this car. 2 drivers only in the Porsche as opposed to 3 in the BMW. Then we go to the number 3 Corvette. What a view this will be all afternoon. The pole sitter almost have to come to a standstill in GTS. Ron Fellows behind the wheel, Chris Neifel and Justin Bell will be with him. Now we go to one of the GTP cars, or the P cars, Max Angelelli. 3 drivers here, Wayne Taylor and Eric Van der Poel. This is number 19 Cadillac. Look at this view. Now we move back to the Olive Garden Lola. Mimo Schiattarella is behind the wheel. Didier Derriguez is with him, as is Norman Simon, a young German who is dynamite. Then the number 43 BMW. We are right inside here with Jean-Marc Gugnon. He will team with American Bill Oberlin. And we move further up the grid. The number 78 Audi will also carry one of our onboard cameras. Started by Emanuele Pirro. Frank Biela will run with him, as will Tom Christensen, the same team that ran at Le Mans. And now we're with the pole man. Right over his shoulder, Capello and Michele Albretto will team with him. Andrew?
Yeah, well, there's a problem with the Reynard with the Judd V10 in the back. Guy Smith, I just caught a word with him, and he told me it's a problem with the battery or the voltage regulator. They have cured that. The engine is fired up. He's going to go at the back of the field. A lot of work to do for Guy Smith.
Yes, indeed. In fact, Stefan Johansson's team, or Johansson Matthews, actually withdrew one of their cars earlier because of a serious chassis problem. So they were originally going to run 2 cars, but now they're in trouble even with the lone car that they have left. Dorsey, you remember this? Familiar sight for you?
Yeah, and I've been watching this. You know, McNish up there is really stacking the field up. He keeps doing burnouts, getting the rear tires up to temperature, not only the fronts, and then jumping on the brakes to get his brake temps up. It's got the field kind of in a cluster right now, and it's going to take a while for the back guys to get back in position.
And here's the new section of Road Atlanta. For those of you who remember many years in the past, this was a fierce downhill dip at high speed, and then it suddenly went uphill. Well, now that's removed to a left-right corner that is about 2nd and 3rd gear. There's going to be a late yellow here, I believe, to bunch these boys up. But look at that Audi freight train. Right through the last corner, they accelerate in unison. Alan McNish on the right side, left side of your screen right now. Remember, it's 10 hours, so boys, take it easy as you hang on to your hollyhocks here. Tremendous elevation changes all the way up the hill. Look at Brabham get it sideways on cold tires. Very twitchy, these cars, particularly in these opening laps. McNish leads comfortably. There's Pirro. The Paynos cars are safe. He got it. Oh, see the twitch on the BMW. Early laps, cold tires, you got to take it easy, but you can't lose sight of who's right ahead of you. On board number 43, Jean-Marc Gounon, right behind one of the Panos cars.
Here under the long back straightaway, you're going to see speed now. That's out of the very tight turn 7, a very important corner as it leads down this very long straightaway.
Dorsey, you were out there earlier on during the practice sessions. How fast do they go on this long run here?
Right here, they're headed down this hill and they'll be gaining speed over 190 miles an hour on the Panos, probably 192 or 3 right through there.
I can't tell you how impressive these Audis are when you watch them go through these high-speed corners. I mean, it is just awesome to see the amount of grip these cars can generate, and it's no wonder they've been the freight train they've been this season long. On board with the pole man.
Wow, look at this, up turn 1, up the hill. Now you're blind going into turn 3 up here. You won't see it. He flicks it to the right across the curb.
What's this run downhill? See him look in the mirror. You see him check the left side mirror all the time. We're going to show you this telemetry as the day wears on here.
Look at that, up under the bridge you go. That's totally blind to these guys in the car. They're looking at the sky when they go. They're just pit straight away. You can tell all the people that are here. Look at the people.
Oh, it is jam-packed here. There is David Brabham, first of the BMWs. JJ Leto, Graf right behind him. There is Gounon. There's the Olive Garden Mimo Schiatarella driven car. Goosen's right behind him.
And all the
Eric
Cadillacs.
Bernard, yeah, Angelelli's right there. There is John Field, Franz Conrad. And here's the GTS fight. Look at this here. The 2 yellow Corvettes ahead of the Vipers. They have spent the whole season long trying to first match the speed of the Vipers, then got level with them, and now they're just, Dorsey, it appears, maybe a tiny skosh faster.
Well, this new chassis has been really good. They've won races with it, but not an endurance race, not yet anyway. But look at them as they come down the S's. Really beautiful speed through here.
No, it's been great to follow this GTS battle all season long. Calvin?
Well, one problem for the GTS and the GT cars here this weekend, Derek, is the fact that all of their practice sessions were either early morning or the night time, so they really didn't have a lot of track time during these early afternoon hours, and the track conditions are quite different. So other than qualifying, which is really typically 3 to 5 laps, they don't have that much track time at this time of day.
And that is Fellows, Pilgrim, Olivier Beretta, and then David Donahue is the 4th car in line, the 2nd of the Red Vipers. On board now with Ron Fellows, the number 3 car. What a great view we are going to have here as this 10 hours goes on.
New section of Road Atlanta. A couple of years ago, they put that little chicane in there. Watch this. Do a wheelie here. Hear the engine squeal as it goes under the bridge.
Wow. Dorsey, that brings up an interesting point. Let's stay on board here just for a minute. This is 160 miles an hour right down here to the braking zone. Didn't change gear, Dorsey, top of the hill.
That's good. He's running a tall gear there, and he just skipped it across the curb. And look here, down the S's, nearly flat out.
Dorsey, one of the problems that you came across yesterday was people are saying it's difficult to see out of the GTS cars and see the P cars coming behind you.
Well, you look out the rear end of that thing, and that's a fiberglass rear window, not fiberglass, but plexiglass. It moves around, and you got that big wing on there. So these cars are up in the air where the driver sits, and the prototypes are down underneath. Look, we have a change for second place right there. Viper moves around and goes second place.
That's Olivier Beretta. Now running down Ron Fellows. Andy Pilgrim was the one that was passed. David Donahue was just about 10 car lengths behind these 3 boys. But this is the type of fight in GTS.
Look here, look
Whoa,
here.
the braking zone down inside him.
Boy,
down inside him.
Made it look easy. Just stuffed the Viper right up in there.
Yikes.
Now they get loose on the bridge. Watch the back of the car twitch right there.
Olivia Beretta now will lead this GTS battle for the first time this afternoon. Early in the race to pull a braking move like that, but there's the Viper, now heads the GTS battle. Good stuff. So the Petit Le Mans will roll on. There is your overall leaderboard. Things are going to settle down a little bit, but this is going to be a long, long day.
Speed Vision's coverage of the Petit Le Mans is sponsored by Dodge. In a perfect world, everything would be different. And brought to you by Pirelli and your local Pirelli retailer.
Welcome back to Road Atlanta, on board with one of the world's very best. Some people think he is the best sports car driver in the world. He is now a contracted Formula One driver, just signed to move to the Toyota development program for next year, and hopes to race Grand Prix cars in about 2 years and up over the top of the curbs in the leading Audi. And well in the middle now of the traffic. And this traffic, they are you can see here the difference in speed. They're going to have to do this all night long and all day long. Then they're going to have to do it all through the night as well. So this is going to be harrowing as soon as they get into the darkness. Andrew?
Yes, there's a completely different setup apparently between the two Audis. Alamanic told me just before the start that they've gone quite a bit softer than the Frank Wheeler car, and they're also running quite a bit more, using quite a bit more downforce. Also in this Audi pit, there have been some words between the drivers. Emanuele Pirro reckons that he's the #1 for this team and that he should be allowed to win the championship because he's been with them longer. Alan McNish has some very different ideas, and I gather that behind closed doors there's been a few words.
Oh, never words behind closed doors in professional motor racing. That is our GT leader. This is Randy Pobst. Randy did such a great job in the Carrera Super Cup at Indy just last weekend, and now leads the GT battle. We have an Audi in trouble.
That's actually Matthews' car.
Oh, is it Matthews?
Trouble that we saw.
I'm sorry, it is, yes.
He didn't get started early on, and now he's in difficulty.
Guy Smith started from the pit lane. Silver and red looks so like that Audi, but Guy Smith, we saw him start in the pit lane in all sorts of trouble.
He pulled his visor up, so he's going to go into the pits again, and he might be done already.
Boy, this team has not had a good time, but we're watching David Brabham now on the way to the front. How many times have we seen this? On board with the Olive Garden car. This is the Lola, Mimo Schiattarella.
Now that does look familiar.
Yeah, exactly. Dorsey, of course, races one of these cars with a Porsche engine in the back. A lot of testing, and Dorsey, a lot of good things. Maybe race the thing before the end of the year.
I don't know that we'll get through this year with it, but we'll be back next year. Here's the Cadillac on board with the 11th place Cadillac right now. As you watch him, this is the start of the episode. Oh, we've had a problem. GT car into the wall pretty hard there. That's the exit of the downhill.
Johnny Molam and David Murray's car, Rowan Skay's car.
It's hurt bad. Look at the back.
I don't think he's going to get that back.
Nope.
David Murray is behind the wheel. David Murray, of course, local boy from Atlanta here.
That one's finished. He doesn't know it yet, but
this does not look good.
When it turns right here, he'll have to figure it out.
They had a brand new car delivered here from the factory on Thursday, put it on the track the next day, but they are not going to take any further part in that thing.
Wow, look at
dog
this.
walk that bad.
Look at this already. McNish getting ready to lap the Corvettes, who are all battling right there together. Oh, easy. Down these S's, it's very hard to pass. You see right now McNish with a lot of patience, stuck behind a much slower GT car, but he knows better than to try to attempt it there.
And actually, there's been a bit of controversy because these P-car boys have been known to sideswipe some of the GT cars on their way by. I know Dick Barber is trying to get a penalty on these P cars if they sideswipe some of the GT cars, because he blamed that for losing in the race in Portland. But I'll tell you what, they don't do it on purpose, because you got to be so careful when you go by some of these guys. But the speed differential is so great. Now here's David Brabham again, running second in the paint nose.
Oh, look at here, we got a deer on the track. There's a deer now that's running right in front of this Porsche. Oh boy, look at that. It's come out of the infield. There's the big woods in the infield. Now it's stuck in gravel trap because there's nowhere for it to go.
I can't tell you the damage that would cause. If they don't catch that thing, they're going to have to go yellow here.
Well, I think they will have to, because the deer can't go anywhere from where it's at. It's trapped up against the concrete wall. And,
Yes, it
in the
is.
barrier there. There's a pass by right there. How fast the Audi goes by and up the hill.
And there's a GTS car now going inside number 34 in the GT class. That is the Orbit entry, Henry Lewis and Peter Barron. Peter Barron started that car. But you just see even the GTS cars how much faster than the GTs.
Oh, we have problems here on the 10 BMW. It's pulled off course into the grass, so it has a problem.
Brian Cunningham, we believe, started that car. This was one of the new M3s. Wow, he can't even get it back to the pit lane. He can't. So attrition very high here early in this race. The first P car that we saw go was the Matthews Johansson car that was driven by Guy Smith. And I think we can get an update on the Guy Smith situation while we watch this. This is a disaster here with this deer.
Now it's on the downhill. That's coming out of turn 11 on the way to 12. It has nowhere to go. It's stuck by this wall. Jumps it. Good deer. Wow, he made it. Another day. Another day for him.
Well, Guy Smith's with me here. Guy, you had problems before the start with the battery, but now it's a different problem down. They're working on the gearbox.
Yeah, just coming out of the second gear turn onto the straight, the gearbox, as I kicked the third gear, just started making a noise, so we're coming in and changing it now. Obviously, it's a very frustrating distance going, but we're going to use it in a little bit of a test section also now.
Thanks, Guy.
Thank you, Andrew. So difficult to hear them. Basically, they're going to try and use this as a bit of a test session. Look at this. All sorts of trouble here for the Jeanette car. Gunnar Jeanette behind the wheel. He has broken the radiator on the right front. He has no option but to go to the pit lane right there.
Yeah, it dumped a lot of the antifreeze out, which I can tell you is a lot slipperier than even oil.
For those of you with a good memory, you might remember the late Neil Bonnet once hit a deer at Pocono in a Winston Cup car, and I'll tell you, that was not a pretty sight. But Gunnar Jeanette is forced to bring that number 30 car in. He obviously hit somebody else. We don't know who that is yet. That is the White Lightning racing car. Gunnar Jeanette slowly comes down the pit lane. He's got plenty of time to fix this. Meanwhile, back on board with Alan McNish. Pirro, his teammate, has now gone by David Brabham. Leto, you see, is now actually in fourth place. We'll be back. Welcome back to a glorious afternoon of motorsports, the Petit Le Mans from Road Atlanta. Braselton, just north of the city of Atlanta, and the house is packed here, and we have action. We're going to go 10 hours, but already we've had mechanical failures. But on board the number 3 Corvette, driven right now by Ron Fellows. But just a few moments ago, have a look at what happened here. This is one of the Pano's cars. Boom! Drop kicks the Corvette Dorsey right off the road.
And that's exactly what Dick Barber was complaining about. These guys being rude, and you saw him just slam Ron Fellows right in the door and pushed him right off the track.
Wow. Wow, we saw the number 30 car, the Jeanette-driven car, Gunnar Jeanette car in trouble earlier on. Calvin, you're there?
Yes, Derek, I am. I just spoke to Gunnar Jeanette, and he said the Audi and the Panos got together, and then another GT car got turned around. He ran into him. We see the resultant damage from that incident. They've damaged the radiator. There's a big water leak on the front end of the Porsche. This is going to take a while. Severe damage to the bodywork, and they're trying to replace the rad.
Wow, it's a boxing match out there. These P-boys have hit at least 3 guys, and we're only 35 minutes into this race.
Look at this mess right here. This is how difficult it gets. All these guys fighting for position, the P cars, and so are these other cars. These GT cars are having a battle of their own. Look.
Yeah, Eric Bernard right behind the Olive Garden car with Scatarella. These 2 P cars.
Oh, 3 wide.
Thread their way past. That is Andy Wallace right behind them. And is in there too. Man, this is a traffic jam.
And of course, a position change on the Cadillacs there. Those guys are fighting with each other. Can you believe this? That the P cars are hitting each other already in the first half hour of a 10-hour race.
Mimo Schiatarella on board, right behind one of the Vipers. Now, don't forget, today's Petit Le Mans is actually interactive. You can go right now to speedvision.com, click on the line, and send your email questions and comments right here directly to us. We have our computer in the booth, so we will try and answer as many email questions as we can. So we are interactive. If you have time to go to your computer with this type of action going on. There is the Cadillac. They're going to change direction a bit in that program. Riley and Scott will no longer be involved as we go on board Max Angelelli's car. Wayne Taylor will get into that car on the second stint, but Riley and Scott, who built this car this year, will no longer be involved. Next year, the plans are a little bit secretive, but they are very serious about being successful, particularly at Le Mans. So Cadillac are not going anywhere. They're just changing their direction just a little bit.
Shows you the speed of the GTS car right there. The Viper, not that much slower than this prototype car. The prototype car has to get it under braking and then try to stay there, because the V10 Viper, quite fast in a straight line.
We do have confirmation that the Corvette that got drop-kicked, in fact, they don't believe there's any trouble in that, so he hit it fairly square. Did not necessitate a pit stop, but he certainly did lose some time as he went across the grass. But there they are. You see them right here. Both cars in the picture at the same time. That's number 3 car. That's our onboard camera with Ron Fellows, who moves over.
I just get a little toe there off the P car, actually.
If you don't move over for a P car,
watch here.
It makes you do it.
Watch the Corvette. I mean, these have a lot of horsepower, and he will be no lame duck down the straightaway. He doesn't get the launch, of course, that the P does because of the weight difference, but top end, once it gets that Corvette running, it'll be there.
Don't forget now, the Corvette broke the great Viper string of wins. Viper had 12 in a row, and Corvette won in Texas. Doug Feehan is here. He's the Corvette program manager. He said this is like a family. Worked together on this program right from gestation period, and they have watched it grow, get faster, challenge the Vipers, and then win. This is a great program here. As close to the road-going Corvette as they can keep this, they want to do that. It's got a wider track here this weekend. It's not the first time they tried it, but the wider track has definitely given Goodyear way more options for tire development, and that has made a big difference to this Chevrolet Corvette. Again, at the top of the hill, you hear they do not down change, use the torque of that V8 engine, and then just launch themselves down through the S's to the left-hander. McNish still leads from David Brabham. We'll be back. We are back at the American Le Mans Series. Derek Daly, Dorsey Schrader, Calvin Fish, and Andrew Marriott live right now on board. Here is a pass. We are on board one of the Audis. That is the number 78 car, driven by Emanuele Pirro. Oh, they're side by side in the braking zone. The BMW number 42 car on the left, JJ Leto behind the wheel. But we hear the 78 may be on his way to the pit lane. Stay on board here. Yes, he is. He, we believe, has just been black flagged. So here is the first mistake by the powerhouse, because we believe he's black flagged for passing under a local yellow. Stop and go. Calvin?
Yes, it was a stop and go penalty, Derek, for an incident passing under yellow. Actually involved that Gunnar Jeanette incident. The car driven by Pirro didn't see the yellow. I think he went to pass the Panos, which had slowed momentarily, and the officials saw it. So it was a stop and go. They are not allowed to work on the car or refuel under that instance, so it's really a severe penalty under green flag racing.
Yes, indeed it is. Leto now third, Graf and the Panos is fourth. But you know what? Nothing infuriates Dorsey, a driver, more than something that he probably genuinely didn't see the yellow flag, because there's so much traffic here just like this.
And so that's in the S's, and he is passing in the S's, which makes him a little bit angry under the collar there. I think it's a heated. But I'll tell you what, you saw him burn out of the pit lane and then immediately slow. There's a pit lane speed limit, and he's got a button on his steering wheel that he can push, and it will not let the car go faster than the speed limit, which is so slow.
Joe Foster was in that number 69. Kaiser 911 that we just saw get past. Here's the long straight, 190 plus miles an hour.
You know,
down this long straight.
The viewers might be wondering, you see that cord right there that goes over to the side? That's his radio hookup for his helmet, and that thing flapping around in the camera is a tear-off shield on his helmet that he's had in case he gets oil in the face. As we look at now, Panos working in turn 3 and 4.
Yeah, and these are the local hometown boys. And here's the number 1 car, driven by David Brabham. He is in P2. He is in second place. His teammate will be Jan Magnussen. And I believe we can talk to him right now. Andrew?
Yeah, Yeah, well, Jan Magnussen is watching the footage here. Yeah, and you must be happy the way that David's going so far, and the car's working really well.
Yes, I think for the moment it looks very good. We're in second, and it's going to be a long race. So ALMS, the Audi is very fast. He's going to have to push hard all the time, and hopefully it'll play into our hands at some stage.
Have you got a comfortable setup?
Yes, I think so. He hasn't complained, so I guess.
So yeah, Maxson getting ready to get in the car. That'll come in about 15 minutes time perhaps. Maybe they're double stint here. Over to you, Calvin.
Well, just a bit more on the traffic situation, Andrew, which is really playing its part already today. I spoke to a number of the GT drivers over the weekend, and they said we just cannot see these LMP cars, but they say occasionally we will hear that Panos, so it's noisy for the drivers, but it may actually be to their benefit. The traffic may hear them rather than see them behind.
I can tell you that Panos is a monster. Everything shakes when it runs down the front straight here. All the concrete, everything shakes because it is just a monster. They announced a brand new car for next year with a new engine that will hopefully make this car even faster. But you know, Magnussen says maybe this will play into our hands. Don't forget what happened last year. Within 3 laps to go, the leading BMW flew off the road, handing the lead to the Panos car. Andrew?
I've got David Murray with me, who's just walked back from the incident, shaking his head. David, what happened out there?
Well, you know, it ran really well. Had a good start, running well. And one of the prototypes went underneath me in the bridge. I gave him plenty of room, but he decided to use me as a little buffer to get a little speed. And it cost me the race. My car's crashed now. I can't get back.
You must be very disappointed because in all the big races you've had these string of podium finishes together, of course, with Johnny Moe.
I couldn't quite hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you've had all these second places in the big races like Le Mans and obviously Sebring. You must be disappointed.
It's really disappointing because these are the kind of races that we do well. We had second at Sebring, Le Mans, and Nürburgring. And this is the one, especially my home track, I thought we could really do well. Trying to stay out of trouble, trying to run a consistent pace, that's what we were doing. Everything's going great, and you just can't avoid it sometimes when I'm out in the marbles and somebody pushes me further. Can't go any more than that.
A very disappointed David Murray.
Yes, indeed. David Murray, a man who goes very, very well here at this racetrack. In fact, David did have a little celebration a couple of weeks ago because he had the birth of his son, Dylan, on September 17th.
Boy, in the meantime, look at this. We got the Viper with a Corvette sandwich in the middle of it. This Corvette's been working very, very hard to try to get by. That's Andy Pilgrim. And he looks to the inside. He's trying to get underneath. No room there, but he's not giving up. He's still the inside. Look at this. That's turn 7. Now, it's hard to get through there without spinning up. Let's see who's got horsepower. The other, now, Viper side by side. They're not doing any drafting.
Look at this here. This is good stuff here with the GTS battle. Now, traffic may be a factor all through this race. I just want to take you back to a couple of minutes ago. Right here, have a look at one of the P cars, one of the Panos cars trying to go by a traffic jam. Just look at what he has to do to make the pass.
Boy, nowhere to go. He doesn't know where to go. Goes to the right, goes to the left, goes to the right. He's off in the grass at 170 miles an hour.
Trying to get past. That is what's going to happen here, because this is going to be a familiar pattern all the way through this. And remember what's going to happen when trying to do this in the middle of the night, in the darkness. There's not much light here when you race these things at night. We're going to be here for every lap. Don't go away.
Speed Vision's coverage of the Petit Le Mans is sponsored by Dodge. In a perfect world, everything would be different.
Welcome back to Road Atlanta. Now don't forget, right here on Speed Vision, the AMA Superbike race, which will come to you from Willow Springs. It's live tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. AMA Superbike racing from Willow Springs. Let's get down to Andrew, who has a very special guest.
I can't quite grab a word with Paul Newman at the moment. He's just focusing on his first stint in his car. Of course, this is a track where Paul has won in the SCCA. He said he might talk to us later. He said, I don't want to talk at the moment. I'm too old and I'm too slow.
And that is very understandable. I spoke to him last night. He is having a bit of difficulty just getting used to this 911. In the high-speed corners, his coach for the weekend, Bob Earl, told me that he's very, very good and very smooth. But Dorsey, it's in the low-speed stuff that he's actually having a bit of problems trying to throw that 911 around.
He's used to a different type of car than this 911 rear engine, too. Paul goes way back, started racing here in 1975 in a Datsun against me, believe it or not. We had a lot of mini battles together. That was a long time ago. for him and for me. But this is Porsche is a brand new rear engine car, and he's just not liking it quite yet.
Yeah, remember, he's driving for Dick Barber here. Dick Barber, there's two
Got a
Dick
local
Barbers,
yellow
both
here.
cars right there.
We got a car right there that was broke down. There's a local yellow. That's turn 7. We ride right here on the Dick Barber car, the 5 car. Watch, he drafts, pops out in the draft. That's very early, so this pass will be made pretty cleanly, I would think.
This is car number 5, driven by Lucas Luhr. He's going to team with Dirk Mueller. They have basically dominated this class all year long here. It is a mighty team based, I believe, right here at Road Atlanta. Calvin?
Well, actually, there's a bit of controversy brewing within that category and that team. Sasha Masson and Bob Wallach actually lost their points from Texas, and that was several weeks ago, but the officials saw that there was an error in how many laps and how much time Bob Wallach put in during that race. Remember, it was very hot there. We saw temperatures around 109-degree ambient there, so they say that a mistake may be expected under those conditions, but they said the official results were posted. They believe they should keep the points. That would keep Masson in the lead, but right now, Dirk Mueller currently leads that category with the disqualification for the sister car.
You see on our telemetry on the run down the hill, almost 130 miles an hour before they jump on the brakes, up over the top of the curves on the right-hand side, still on board with Lucas Luhr. Now, Calvin, you just mentioned the heat in Texas. The first of our emails comes from Joel Rollins. Will the heat in the cockpit be as big a factor for the GTS cars as it was in Texas? Dorsey, what do you think?
Well, it's just as hot inside the car. It's about 155 degrees, and the difference is that the ambient air temperature outside, they conduct that air into the driver, and it will cool him down, whereas in Texas, it was about 111 degrees, and that is just not pleasant.
Believe it or not, race car drivers have burned their skin being inside racing cars, just being in there and touching the hot parts. Let's take a quick look at our GT points. We mentioned Dirk Mueller earlier on. He is in partnership with Lucas Luhr in the number 5 car, leading the points chase. His teammate is 2nd, his teammate is 3rd, and his teammate is 4th. All of Dick Barber's drivers in the top 4 in the championship head, and then 5th is David Murray, who unfortunately will not get any points today because he was mugged by a P car earlier on. Here's the Olive Garden Lola. Now this car, Dorsey, created quite a stir when it came initially to the series. Tested very, very fast in Europe, but it just hasn't had the reliability, I believe, to show its true form here during the season.
Well, this Lola runs the Judd V10, and when it came out, this is the sister car to mine, actually. It was built in 2 days, completed 2 days before my car was completed, and this car shocked the world at Silverstone, England, when it was on the pole in front of the Audis and the BMWs. However, another Lola, that's the 28 Conrad Lola, Ford power here. It is off the racetrack in turn 5, and that it's pulled off actually because that is a portion of the racetrack they use for their driving school here, the Panos school, and I think there is a mechanical difficulty in the Conrad Lola.
That does not look good. He was just in the pit lane, in fact. So they were the first of the P cars to make that stop. Franz Conrad, of course, so experienced. Look at this here. 3 and 4 abreast.
Oh, and there are P cars in there. There's the GT just bumped the P car back. I bet that was a return favor. I bet you that Cadillac leaned on the Beretta, on the Viper. The Viper driver just said, "Hey, you want a little of this?" He gave him some back.
Yeah.
They're fisticuffs out there.
So right in the middle of the mix here. But we just looked at Franz Conrad now beginning to drop down the order here. Calvin?
Yeah, they've actually had a misfire they've been trying to cure all weekend, Derek, so that may be a result of the problems they've been having in the engine department. They've been changing everything on the car, couldn't really find it, went into the race with a bit of an unknown, but they're Terry Borscheller slated to drive that car. That's his first time he's been in one of these LMP cars, and he told me, he said after 5 laps, he said, I thought my neck was falling off. And he's a very fit young guy, driven a lot of cars this year. He's in a race car typically 2 times every weekend, but these LMP cars, the G-force around this track is something else.
Thank you, Calvin. Here is the 2 Vipers. The Vipers are in a fight. They are ahead right now of the Corvettes. The Beretta car, then we have Fellows, then we have Pilgrim, then we have David Donoghue and Tommy Archer, the battle you just watched. It's party time. We'll be back. Welcome back. We are live at the Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta, and you are on board with Mimo Schiattarella. Again, he is running in 8th place, I believe, in the Olive Garden Lola. This is a great program here. We haven't really paid enough attention to this, but Olive Garden are in an incredible program to feed the hungry, attached to the racing cars. They're going to try and feed 10,000 needy families over the course of a couple of years. Now, in 6 events last year and 5 this year, Olive Garden Drive Against Hunger has provided a total of 8,696 meals for over 2,000 needy families, all in American Le Mans Series cities like Atlanta, where we are now, Charlotte, Dallas. They did it in Vegas and Portland, Tampa, Petersburg, St. Petersburg. Now, in order to reach their magic number of 10,000 meals, today they will have to do 326 laps. And we are going to count every one of those laps because we want to see all those needy families get fed. But a great program for Olive Garden just to feed all those needy families.
Well, if they're going to do 326 laps, Derek, they're going to have to complete almost the entire race.
Yes.
As if it goes 1,000 miles, that would be 394 laps. He would have to have a very good day today. And did you see the telemetry on there? I almost gagged when he went through the S's at 192 miles per hour, which, of course, is not correct. Our telemetry on that car is a little bit on the long side.
On board again with Alan McNish, and he has a commanding lead. Well, I say a commanding lead. He's still only 20 seconds ahead of David Brabham in the first of the Panos cars. Leto is still third in the BMW. Then it's Graf and Gugnon, Pirro and Goosens, and Mimo Schiattarella and Andy Wallace.
And of course, 20-second lead seems like a lot on the racetrack, but think about when they come in for the pit stop. One miscue, 20 seconds gets evaporated real quick.
And a miscue can happen easily. I mean,
there's one right now.
This is Paul Newman's car.
That's Paul Newman's 15 car that's miscued off the racetrack.
Not good.
There.
Mike Brockman, who's a very good friend of Paul's, behind the wheel. He didn't hit anything because he's back on track again. But Randy Wars, Paul Newman, and Mike Brockman are going to drive that thing together, hopefully.
Well, no damage, so and obviously he won't lose a lot of time. Not when you're considering a 1,000-mile race, but he'll get back going again, and it'll hopefully no more will come of that.
That right-hander he just went through, which is turn 1. That is probably the most impressive place you can watch these race cars at. And the number 15 is in, so Brockman, it looks as if he's going to stay in. Now, we know Paul Newman was ready to get in. Calvin?
Well, they brought the car in. They're looking at the left rear, Derek. They're actually going to take the wheel off now. They're rocking the wheel. Maybe a differential problem or a half shaft, possibly. They're replacing the tire. There doesn't look to be any damage to that tire as I saw it roll out of the way. Mike Brockman stays behind the wheel. He's talking on the radio. They're making some other adjustments. Now he's jumping out. Okay, Mike Brockman is going to be jumping out, and I believe it's Wars going to be getting in behind the wheel. It's definitely not Paul Newman, so they're taking an opportunity during this stop to get the driver change done. It doesn't look that orchestrated. It's not the prettiest one we've seen, and hopefully not the best one they're going to do today, but the team is still working on the car, so it's not going to cost them too dearly.
Randy Wars is from Mexico City, has driven many, many racing cars. This is the 3rd entry, remember, for Dick Barber. Good to see Paul Newman back with Dick Barber. There's a great story about Newman and Dick Barber in 1979 at the Le Mans 24-hour race, when, believe it or not, they almost won the thing. They had Rolf Stommelen drive with them, and but for a mechanical failure with an upright late in the race, they would have won the Le Mans 24-hour race. What a story that would have been for Paul Newman.
You know, Paul Newman's the oldest man to win a 24-hour race. He won the 24 hours at Daytona at 78 years old, I do believe, when he did that, with Tommy Kendall.
And look at this here, Schiattarella in the Lola, trying to run down Mark Goosens. Mark Goosens in the number 32 car. Meanwhile, the number 19 car, that's Max Angelelli, who lives in Monte Carlo, brings it in for the first of his pit stops. They run 2 cars here. They're only going to run 1 car in Laguna Seca. Andrew?
Yeah, well, this is the second of the Cadillacs to come in. The first one, surprisingly, changed the rear tyres only, and now the second car is doing the same. Now, all the other leading teams, we expect to to stint the tyres. Remember, the Cadillacs are on these Pirellis, and this particular team is not very happy with their rubber. They have different and harder rubber than the Dams run Cadillacs. So there's been a bit of an issue there, but obviously Cadillac are not very happy.
It has not been a great program. There's probably 4 or 5 small areas, a little bit on the tires, a little bit on the engine, a little bit on the handling. Just the package just wasn't fast, Orsi.
Well, I tell you what, that's somewhat surprising. They're changing rear tires only. Of course, in the American Le Mans Series, the mechanics can't work on the car till the fuel's put in, so it saves them just a little time. It also tells us they have a lot of problems with tire wear at the rear.
Yes, indeed. On board with Ron Fellows. One Corvette looking back at another Corvette. That is Andy Pilgrim, his teammate, right behind him. As you look down through our unofficial top 10, Audi still leads.
Welcome back to the Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta. The number 78 Audi, driven by Emanuele Pirro, is in the pits. The BMWs are in at the same time, but we're expecting a tire change. The Michelin engineer went over there, allowed to inspect the car, but not work on it until the fueling is done. We're expected to double stint these tires, so a little bit of a surprise that we're changing the tires this early. The engine is shut down. Once the work is complete, they fire the engine, and Pirro should be back out of here. Meanwhile, Brab is down further down pit lane, Andrew Marriott.
David Brabham has just come in now. The number 2 Paynos stopped. Tyres were at the ready, they weren't taken. The BMW 42, incidentally, did take tyres on the left-hand side only. That wasn't expected. Tyres are waiting here for the number 1 Paynos, the car which is in second place. No question of doubt, David Brabham is going to double stint this car. I think it's unlikely they're going to change tyres, so we're obviously getting very good tyre wear down here in Paynos. The fuel going in across the final on stop. We've been running 50 minutes, the fuel pipes come out, and indeed, front tyres going on. So this wasn't expected at all. Obviously, we've got quite a tyre wear issue today. The leader, I understand, is in the pits, and Calvin, you're with it.
Yes, I am. Alan McNish stays behind the wheel, gets a calm drink there, and I do not believe there's going to be a tyre change on this car. I think what happened with the Pirro car, he may have flat spotted the tyres during one of those traffic incidents. Alan McNish just waiting for fuel. There is no indication that we're going to see a tyre change on this car. Now, Alan is one of the smoothest drivers on tyres. They said at Sears Point, the car could have gone the whole distance on the same set of Michelin. So they're waiting for the last drops of fuel. Alan's waiting for the signal. We see the bubbles in the fuel line. He's going to refire it up. Lights are on. He heads back on track.
Well, I'll tell you.
Rash of pit stops here. Everybody in.
And
McNish did not change tires. We see Mimo Schiattarella vacates his. So he moves over, and Didier De Rodriguez, I believe, is going to get into that car. I believe he was second originally in that rotation. Norman Simon von Wiesbaden, Germany, is also with that team.
I find it very interesting that they only put left side tires on one of those cars because of the way this is set up. The fuel goes in first, you can't work on anything, but you can bring the tires, set them down there and get ready, and just put 2 tires on. I find that quite extraordinary.
All tires for the Lola. All tires on the Lola. Uh-oh.
Oh, they're rocking it. I think the starter motor might have locked into the motor there.
Huh.
Got it free, though.
That's an ominous sign, though, when something like that happens on the very first pit stop.
That happens quite often, too. We engage the starter, and the gear slams in and locks up, and then the mechanics actually shake it loose again. It's not a good pit stop for the first one. You're right, though.
Now, we know Wayne Taylor did a driver change. We know both Audis did not do a driver change. We know David Brabham did not change. We believe Graf is still in the second of the Paynos cars. Gugnon, we believe, stayed in the BMW. Goosen stayed in. I believe Wallace stayed in. Max Angelelli stayed in. But there you see the freight train. Even after the pit stops, Audi still control it at the front.
Welcome back to the Petit Le Mans as the Corvettes lead the number 91 car driven by Olivier Beretta pits. He's going to be turning it over to Carl Wendlinger. Now we expect it to be a bit of a fuel battle here between the Vipers and the Vets. Typically the Vipers have seen better fuel efficiency in the races so far this year. We thought we'd see about 40 laps. They're stopping at about lap 37, so they tend to be a little conservative on the first stretch to see how they're looking. They certainly don't want to run out in a 10-hour race. We're also seeing a tire change as well. They'll try and look at the tire wear, and these cars run a little longer than the LMP cars, so difficult for them to do a double stint. The work is completed by the Orica team and Carl Wendlinger behind the wheel.
Beretta, Carl Wendlinger, and Mark Duez. What a potent crew that is. But this is serious motor racing stuff here. They're trying to fight off the challenge of that Chevrolet Corvette that appears to have at least equal speed, maybe even more speed over the Vipers. Back into the racetrack, right at the very, very far end, and then you come down this long straight above 190 miles an hour. That is McNish behind one of the BMWs. Is that JJ Leto that made his way past in the traffic? Oh, yes it is. Look at this. Look at this. Leto took the lead momentarily, and then McNish takes it back. Alan McNish again right ahead in the lead Audi. Another look at our telemetry.
Right now we're in the S's. This will be interesting to see how fast it really is. Look at the left side of the screen, 136. And that's not a straightaway you're looking at, folks.
That is not. That is down through the S's. Look at the lateral G's on top. Now the high G loads, look, 3 G's. The high G loads is something that the drivers have had to contend with here at Road Atlanta. Their necks have been sore. Unless you do a lot of laps around a track like this, your neck will get sore because there is an enormous amount of side loading on these sports cars.
Particularly down here where we're heading, turn 12 onto the pit straightaway and turn 1, both right-handers at over 3 Gs, and of course the gap between them is only probably a second, maybe a second and a half that you get to rest your neck, and then you're right there. Look at this, side by side in the brake zone. Wow, look at this traffic as they come up underneath the bridge. They'll go underneath here, headed toward turn 12. This is where I'm talking about, right here. 3.5, 4 Gs through turn 12. All the key players right there. You see all 4 prototype cars.
And everybody is here. P cars, GT cars, and GTS cars, all down that front straight. But the GTS battle is still between Viper and Corvette. Andrew?
Yeah, I got Andy Pilgrim with me. Andy just climbed out of the car. What was it like in that first stint?
Yeah, actually, it was really good. We were just running along. I was following Ron, and you know, Beretta set a little bit faster pace. We just let him go. There was a couple of cars spun in 7, and I was letting a prototype by on the inside, and I got stuck when they all spun. But you know, I got back by the other 2, and then at the end, you know, I was just basically running a pace. I don't know what Ron was doing. I think he was just conserving fuel probably. And so, you know, we went by the 3 car, and our car was great right to the end. I was very happy. It's great.
Andy, thanks very much. Let's go down to Calvin Fisher's with Oliver Beretta.
Well, we'll get the other perspective now, Andrew. Olivier, it was a great run by you. They took the lead away from Ron Fellows. It looks like a classic battle once again between the Vets and the Vipers here today.
Well, the Dodge is very strong. We have a very good team. I decided to go in the front at the beginning because I want to make a gap. But it's okay, the car is very well. And if we need to go quick, it's no problem. So I'm very confident about the race.
The conditions today are a little kinder than Texas, a little cooler.
Texas was like to be a spaghetti, you know. And now it's like to be a human, you know. But it's still hot in the car. But for everyone who has front engine, with the exhaust on the side, is for the same. Is the same, you know. So, but I'm quite happy for the start.
Well, the Viper is in the battle with that number 3 vet, Andrew, and Ron Fellows has jumped out to take a breather, I believe.
Yeah, Ron Fellows is down here, minus the moustache. Ron, you're racing minus the moustache. Your first victory in the Corvette was without it. Obviously, it doesn't make any difference at all.
Well, yeah, it was awesome to get that first win. We're up against it here today. This is a strong effort by both the 3-car and 4-car and the 3 Vipers. Went a little too hard that first stint and hurt the rear tires, but you know, we'll keep plugging away here, and it should be a great fight as always.
Let's hope so. I'm sure it will be. Thanks very much, Ron. Moustacheless.
Yes, indeed. Now, for Joel Rollins, who sent us that email earlier on, you can see by Olivia Beretta's face that the Viper is much, much hotter inside than the Corvette. It used to be the other way around in the brake zone. This is good stuff here.
Down at the beach. We thought might a little bit up close there. We'll see right here now. They come out at 11, down this steep hill, flat out through turn 12, well over 100 mile per hour right there. The Corvette uses the curve. Viper didn't. Turn 1, that's riding right now. We're riding with Chris Nightfall, one of the tallest drivers. He used the curve in turn 1 just a little bit too. Now we got a slow car in the way. Beretta gets around it, or I should say the Viper gets around it. Flick to the right for turn 3 across the curve.
These boys are very even. This is a very even fight here. And I imagine, because of how reliable these cars have been, this fight will go all the way through daylight and well into the nighttime. We'll be back. Welcome back to the signature event, the Petit Le Mans, and this is the start. We're going to give you a quick recap. You won't believe what we had within the first hour. Nice, safe start. But look at this. A deer came from the infield, ran right across the racetrack, and that is Michael Brockman right there, jumps on the brakes and swerves to avoid him.
Then look at this. David Brown slam dunks Ron Fellows, sends him flying out to the grass right there. We've heard a lot of contact between the prototypes.
Stop and go penalty for Emanuele Pirro because he passed under a local yellow and didn't see it. And then McNish, right out of the pit stops, in a battle with one of the BMWs here, down to the new left-right corner complex. And this is the number 9 Cadillac, and this is Butch Leitzinger.
I can tell from the helmet it is, in fact, Butch Leitzinger that's sitting in there. This is what happens when you get in here. See how it swallows the car up?
Buried. It
doesn't move.
You know what?
That's right where the deer was last time we saw. That's the entrance to turn 12 under the bridge. He's gone off there. He must have had a little help because you wouldn't normally spin there.
They're not going to push that, boys. There's the lead car. Alan McNish just whizzes by. They are going to have trouble getting that Cadillac out of there. That may force a full course yellow if they had to send a wrecker truck to go and drag that thing out of the kitty litter.
It's kind of a funny place to be off at. Like I say, it's very slow through there, accelerating out of there. He probably got a little help from a friend. We've seen a lot of side-to-side bashing going on in the first hour.
Here's car number 51. That is the Sasha Masson Bob Wallach car. Dick Barber. Entry just gets passed by Alan McNish.
Well, look how smooth McNish was at the S's. Never touched a curb, just was real pretty through there. Hand in the air.
Okay.
What's this about?
Is it yellow? Are we yellow?
He's signaling something.
He signals something.
And he's shaking his fist or his finger at the Barber car. There is a there's a truck going to go get Butch Leitzinger out the way. And he can't pass these cars because it was under yellow. But now that he's by that truck, watch.
You know what? Did Alan think there was somebody behind him, hence put his hand up like that just to warn?
I think he might have done so. Yeah, he might have been just saying, hey, we got to stop up here.
And this is turn 12 coming down to right here. You'll see Butch Leitzinger off to the right side as Alan McNish goes through here. There is Butch Leitzinger. Dead in the water, can do nothing about it except wait for that tow truck to come. Boy, they better get him out of there fast.
He won't be a happy man if someone helped him into that little gravel trap, I'll tell you that much.
The problem is the tow truck is going to have to stay pretty much on the racing surface and try and drag him out backwards.
Well, at least it's one of the slowest areas of the whole racetrack, turn 7 being the only other place. You're down into second gear right there.
On board now with the BMW. This is the number 43 car. Bill Oberlin behind the wheel. Lonely
Ooh,
Ron.
hits the curb at the
Yikes.
bottom of the S's. The car must be understeering pretty badly. He didn't get it turned and slams the curb. That's 100. We saw it before on the telemetry. 130 plus miles per hour right there.
Bill Oberlin running in 6th place now, moving up to the number 78 Audi. He is in 5th place. Pirro, Biela, and Christensen. Pirro in a double stint.
And he hasn't been able to pass that Raffinelli Olive Garden Lola, which is the car directly in front of him. The prototype, he's passing the little GT3 car right there. But right ahead of that is the Raffinelli car, which is holding position.
Yes, it is. Pirro. Actually, it's not. That is not a position because Schiattarella is shown right now behind Pirro. So this is actually the Audi trying to put a lap. Oh, look at the speed here. Oh, he's on the grass almost.
Oh, dare we say 4 wide right there? That is not a place you want to do.
Wow, on the grass because he had so much momentum coming off the very last corner. They tried to squeeze through. Thankfully, he backed off.
And of course, Schiattarella's not going to give that lap away. He says, "Are you nuts going in the grass here? I'll show you."
Yeah, in fact, Mimo's not behind the wheel of that car now. He did change to Didier de Rodriguez.
Well, he's fighting for his life now to stay on the lead lap and doesn't want to go lap down.
Have a look here at the replay. This is from behind what you just saw. Look at the momentum he carries.
Yeah, look right there. He's not going to give him the room. He does not want to go a lap down. That's pretty tight right there, boys.
Wow, I'm not sure. I'm not sure he saw him go around the outside.
The C moves to the right like he was going to pass the Viper.
Wow.
No, he saw him.
You think he
said,
did?
Yeah, sure. He looked in the rearview mirror right there. He says, "I don't want you to pass me here right in front of my boys."
But you know what? We got to go yellow. We do have to go yellow. That was Pirro on board the number 78 that we saw just go onto the grass. But I believe we're forced into this pace car situation because Butch Leitzinger is still buried and they cannot drag that Cadillac out of the gravel track.
There you see you've got the truck right up the outside of the road, and they're going to have to hook a tow line onto old Butch there.
He's buried.
And they're going to have to back up to get him out, so the truck's going to have to go on the racetrack, and that's going to bring out the yellow.
Yeah, buried. They can't even drag him in. That's why they're forced to go full course yellow here. Leitzinger wants to stay in the car to try and get it back to the pits and get back into the competition. Well, there is part of the waving happy crowd here. The house is packed and the sun shines. Welcome back. We are live on board with Lucas Luhr. He is on his way to the pit lane because of this full course yellow. And you can see he has already undone his seatbelt. He's actually got his drink bottle right between his legs there. See the red bottle? He's going to grab everything and vacate the seat as soon as possible. But under full course yellow, he can do this because he's running so much slower. Full course yellow because of the Cadillac that was buried into the gravel trap. They now dragged him out and the leaders are in the pits. Alan McNish, is he staying again?
Looks like he is.
Because actually, Dorsey, this was not a long second stint.
You're right. And this time they are taking tires because they didn't last time, as you remember. Now we look up, that's Lucas Luhr that we were riding on board. He's gotten out.
Calvin?
Yeah, we're now in the GT. We see a lot of the GT runners coming in. We're in the Dick Barber pits, and we see the 51 machine driven by Masson is in. He's going to be turning it over to Bob Wallach. Lucas Luhr has jumped out of the 5 car. He's turned it over to Dirk Muller. So this is ideal for these GT cars, okay, because they expect to stop just after an hour, and so this is perfect timing to work out. It's really not going to cost them anything. They were needing to stop within about 5 minutes. Let's go down to Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, well, just looking at J.J. Leto here, screwing his eyes up, sitting in the cockpit of the car, but he is definitely staying in the car. Jörg Muller was already helmeted up. Jörg Muller has now taken his helmet off, and the 42 car is now accelerating away.
Protect me from what I want. That's what's written on that number 42 BMW, which is part of the art car scenario that BMW have carried on here. But look at the slew of cars here leaving the pit lane all at the same time.
Looks like a NASCAR weekend.
Does, yeah.
That's some good stuff right there.
We're going to let everything settle down here and then update you as best we can on all the driver changes. We know Wallach is in. We know Dirk Muller is in. De Radiguez is in. We know Bill Oberlin is in. He changed earlier. Wendlinger we know is in. Nightfall made a change. He is in the Corvette. We know Kelly Collins is in. We know Wayne Taylor is in. And Randy Wars in the number 15 car is in. And there is both of Dick Barber's cars. Dirk Mueller in this car now for Lucas Luhr. The number 5 car is leading in the, no he's not, Randy Post. Bruno Lambert and Lazaro is leading in the GT category as we speak.
Of course,
I don't think they made a pit stop on this run of stops here.
Of course, that great 20-second plus lead that Alan McNish worked so diligently to get now goes away, and everything's back like it hasn't run yet.
It is now gone. So Luhr and Muller and Masson and Wallach run on one behind the other, second and third in class, and we are now green again. We are now green again. The Cadillac that was in the gravel trap is now in the pit lane. They're working on the right front. We saw the right front damaged on that. David Brabham is being shown as the leader on our scoring chart after 53 laps. We're going to go, hopefully, 1,000 miles or 10 hours. That would be about 394 laps if we go at what is normal racing speed.
And look at this battle still continue. Here finally now, the Audi puts a lap on the Raffinelli Lola.
With
finally
pure horsepower. Pure horsepower.
There is, no, that's not the leader either. I thought that was going to be Brabham. That's now the other panel's running in 4th place. Here you go.
It's going to take a lap or two for this to settle down here, for this traffic jam to sort itself out just a little bit. They all have electronic timing systems. They all have sensors in these cars. As soon as they go across the start-finish line, it triggers it officially to the timing and scoring, and then we'll be able to run down the exact order. But we believe David Brabham now in the Panos, number 1, right here, is leading. And it was David earlier on that drop kicked the Corvette right off the racetrack. Obviously not intentional, but there is such a speed difference between these cars and the GTS and the GT cars.
Shows you the strength of these cars on the sides. Neither the Vet or the Panos shows any obvious damage whatsoever.
Again, look at the telemetry. Brakes quite heavily, top of the hill, you see that, and back on the power. Now remember, he's not going to touch the brakes. Look, oh, little dab. He did dab them just a tiny bit of the S's. That hard at the bottom of the hill.
Well, if he had to get on the brake at all going down the S's, that means he's got a bit more understeer than he wants right now. And the car wouldn't turn without a little load on the nose, so he just brushes the brake with his left foot to load the nose down to get the bite he needs to get through there.
David Brabham still regarded as one of the very best in this type of car.
Of course, this is the home track for the Panos and for David, and they have logged a million miles around here, so he knows totally what's going on.
Yeah, the race shop is right here on the racetrack, right on the grounds here. Here is Alan McNish. McNish now running second.
They're trying to run him down. You see right now, down to steep 190 plus.
Calvin.
Well, the Cadillac is in. Butch Leitzinger, they're trying to get the rocks out. What happened there?
Going between the left and the right of the chicane, the throttle stuck open. And the throttle stuck about half open, and it just sent me around before I could clutch it, and it beached on the gravel.
Is there a lot of rocks in there? They trying to fix the stuck throttle? He's actually talking to the team right now. Are they trying to fix the stuck throttle, or do you have rocks down there as well right now?
I couldn't actually hear what you're saying because they're talking on the radio, but I think you asked if there were rocks down here. The footwell is actually pretty good. They're working on the throttle cable by the pedals right now.
Okay, so several problems here. They took out about 20 pounds of rocks, it seems, here in pit lane to try and get this thing cleaned up. And this is scary for a driver, Derek, when you're out there indoors and you're unsure whether that throttle is going to back off at the end of these long straightaways. The braking zones are so short anyway here.
Absolutely, very scary. And Dorsey, you were right. He did have a helping hand because it is such an unusual place to go off the road. But Butch Leitzinger may get himself back in here, but he's way, way back. We'll be back.
Speed Vision's coverage of the Petit Le Mans is brought to you by BMW, the ultimate driving machine, and the new Motel 6, now renovated nationwide and still the best price of any national chain.
The Road Atlanta Grand Prix course, and we are at a good one here because there's a great battle for the lead between David Brabham and Alan McNish. This is Wayne Taylor, who is the second driver in that car, but he is not in contention, just been lapped. But Brabham in the red Panos right here is trying to hold off Alan McNish. Brabham did not pit during that full course yellow, and that has vaulted him to the head of the line here.
So Brabham's car will be a little bit lighter because it's burned more fuel, but it's on older tires, and here comes McNish.
And McNish does not need to take a big chance here to try and stick his nose down unless it's very obvious that he can make the pass. But Brabham is taking the fight here to him. Top of the hill.
Traffic right in front of them is going to play a factor when they get to turn 5.
Yes, the traffic. You got to go by as fast as you can, but you don't dare take a risk.
Good move by Brabham. He spaces that one car between them.
He did. He put number 30, that is the Gunnar Jeanette car, Wayne Jackson and Joe Policastro.
Well, the next ones won't be so easy because they are also prototypes. You see the BMW.
Oh, great battle for the lead here. Andrew?
Yeah, very interesting battle too, because these two guys are best of mates. They actually train together, they go mountain biking together, and Alan and David are really very friendly, so that's off the track, very different on it.
Yes, exactly. David Brabham will not give him an inch, nor will Alan McNish expect to be given anything.
And the guys in front of him don't want to go a lap down either. You see the Raffinelli car. Ah, look at the GTS battle going on right here. This is in turn 5. So we got battles all over the racetrack. That's a half a lap apart right now. That's the lead 2 cars.
We got a fight everywhere. Andy Pilgrim got out. Kelly Collins is in. He is in now from Andy Pilgrim in the Corvette, but back to the overall lead because of the traffic jam here.
Oh, look at that. McNish.
He got by.
Got by. That was great. He passed the BMW that were between him by trapping him with that GT3 911.
Now this is good fun here. Bill Oberlin is now with the back of the train here in the white BMW. He is more than a lap down though. No, he is 1 lap down. Jean-Marc Gagnon got out of that car. Oberlin got in, but David Brabham still hangs on to the lead here. Oh, can he poke down the inside of a P car? Yes, he does. McNish, does he make it? Did he sneak by?
Yeah, he did. Yes, he did.
Wow.
But I think that's only because, oh, look at that. He slides it out.
Man. I remember the difficulty for the GTS guys and the GT cars. The rear vision is so difficult on their cars, particularly when you go up over the top of these elevation changes. It is not that easy to see behind you when you're so busy watching where you're going.
This is what makes it so much fun right here. When you get these slower cars, you have to work the traffic. You saw McNish do a masterful job of trapping Oberlin behind the GT3 car.
Johnny O'Connell on the left side just had a stop-and-go penalty. We presume he must have passed under a local yellow also. So his teammate, Johnny O'Connell, you know what we're being told? He hit the number 15 car.
Wow, well, that's the Newman car. That's the GT3 Newman Brockman war car that he punted.
And that's the one that we saw almost hit the deer earlier.
And you can bet that Dick Barber was the one that was screaming about that, because he brought it up before the race meeting that he didn't want his cars being punted all around by these P cars, which of course have just happened.
Nor by a deer.
Or by a deer. A doe deer at that.
Look at this here. Oh, this is good stuff here. Now, where's the traffic? Look ahead, look ahead. Not too much traffic. So now McNish goes into attack mode. Can he get by David Brabham?
Not easily, I guarantee you that, friends or not. Brabham is not going to let that car go by easily.
Oh.
Yeah, we just had, I saw something fly. I saw it and I didn't say it.
You know what? I think we had a blowover.
I'm sure we did. I saw it and I didn't react to it. I saw it was at the exact same place as last year.
Wow.
That car was behind these two, and I saw what I thought was a piece of bodywork. In fact, it was the entire BMW.
Bill Oberlin just
holding his arm there.
Escaped a huge crash.
And now we'll sit down.
Bill Oberlin, we believe, has done a backward flip, very much like what happened to Porsche 2 years ago.
Here, watch top of the screen now. He's drafting at the wrong place, right behind the guy. Goes around, there's the same identical flip. Now that's the Porsche bridge.
Oh, no.
Oh, and it lands on its side. Much worse crash than last year. Much worse. He impacts the wall.
Wow.
Driver's side. This car's still running over 100 miles per hour. That was a vicious impact.
This is just incredible. 2 years ago, we had the same thing happen to factory Porsche with Yannick Dalmas on board. And now it happens again. Bill Oberlin just escaped a huge one.
And you saw what he was doing. He was drafting on the car behind. They told us a long time ago, back in the Can-Am days, never draft a car up that rise. He was drafting and he moved out to try to make a pass. The wind got on the front of the car and it launched it right at the Porsche bridge.
Watch it again in slow motion, top of your screen. This is dramatic. Top of the screen, Bill
Two cars
Oberlin.
there.
Now he's launches himself like an airplane, upside down, smashes down to the ground, bang, into the concrete car. He was following the Zero car. The Schiatarella car takes the air off the front of this car, suddenly comes over the hump, front comes up, and once the front of these come off the ground, it is literally like an aeroplane, just literally takes off.
And that has happened now probably 10 times over the years.
Wow, what must that BMW pit be thinking about, Calvin?
Well, I just wanted to speak to Charlie Lamb. They've been watching the replays on the screen from Speed Vision, and much concern here. The decision to be made is, do they bring the other car in, Derek? We saw Mercedes make decisions at Le Mans where they kept cars running on the racetrack and had similar blowovers with other cars. So it's very difficult for Charlie Lamb now. They're in the battle for the championship. They're leading. He doesn't want to talk about it. A lot of decisions to be made here down in the BMW Motorsports pits. They're now watching another replay of it as we speak, and they're just trying to distinguish what actually happened there. You see severe damage to the front end of the car when it got into the concrete retaining wall on the driver's right side. Bill is okay. He's explaining the incident to corner marshals, but a lot of consternation right now in the BMW camp.
Wow, that is downright scary.
And that all caused by drafting in close proximity to the other car. As he crested that rise, he was taking a look to the outside. It's happened for many times here before.
Okay, Charlie Lamb and BMW Motorsports now have a major decision to make. When this happened to Mercedes-Benz at the Le Mans 24-hour race 2 years ago, I believe, they actually did it twice before they withdrew the complete team on grounds of safety.
Actually 3 times, as they did it once in practice before the race.
Yes, they did, and they were ultimately forced to withdraw. Wow, what will happen now the rest of this BMW team? Calvin?
Well, the gentleman who actually started the car was Jean-Marc Guenon. Jean, you've actually watched the incident several times on the replay. Any concern with these cars at this racetrack? We know 2 years ago, ALMS had the flip over in the Porsche. When you're driving these cars, do you discuss the possibility here? Do you have to be careful in the draft as you crest the brow?
Yeah, for sure. We knew that in this race, the only place where it can happen to you is this place over the top of the hill. And we also knew that the Lola, since the beginning of the season, is a car which is putting you out a lot of downforce. When you are right behind, you put you the front very up. And I think, you know, I should say that Schiatarella was in front of us since 10 laps. He was 2 laps down and he didn't let him pass. And I think he wanted absolutely to pass because we lost time behind him. And I should say that the end is perfect because he has nothing, and he was lucky to turn back on the 4 wheels, and I am waiting for him now.
Do you think the team will make a decision where the other car may have to stop, or will they just continue to run and have to be careful at that area of the racetrack?
No, there is absolutely no decision to take. You know, it's we are in racing cars. We know that when you have got downforce, this kind of thing can happen. I was in the story in '99 in Le Mans, so I know with another company it was the same. So we have just to be careful, and JJ and Jorg has a lot of experience, and I'm sure they will achieve a good result today.
Okay, meanwhile the leader is in the pits. I believe there's a driver change, Andrew.
Yes, it certainly is. David Brabham is just strapping Jan Magnussen in. Now they have to alter the belt slightly because Jan is such a slight figure here. They are only putting fuel in. They are certainly staying on these tyres. Just looking around the front of the car, no damage at all. Jan leaps, David Brabham, I should say, leaps directly from the car onto the pit lane. Jan Magnussen, you hear the motor thundering away there. Just lost the motor very briefly, but now he's back on the racetrack, still leading it. In just a moment, I'm going to catch a few words with David Brabham.
Wow. So David Brabham was leading and has taken the opportunity during this full course yellow to come in and give over to Jan Magnussen. Randy Popes also brings in the number 23 car that is being held for some reason. This is the Alex Job racing car. This Alex Job, Lambert just got in. Anthony Lazzaro is also here. Oh, Calvin?
Well, tough here because the Vipers are in at the same time. Bit of a traffic jam here in the pits. They try and get the air hose out of the way. Frank Bieler now behind the wheel. Pirro jumped out. They changed tyres once again. Just to bring you up to date on the first stop, why Pirro put tyres on, the left front tyre had a big cut in the sidewall, and that's why we saw the unscheduled tyre change on Pirro's first round of stops.
So Frank Bieler is now behind the wheel of the number 78 car, currently shown in 4th place. JJ Leto is in 3rd place, and David Brabham, of course, led before this pit stop. Andrew?
Well, David's here. You're looking as fresh as a daisy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good, really. I mean, the car's handling pretty well, and you know, I wanted to make sure that I kept with the Audis, or at least get between them, which I was able to do, and I was able to keep Alan in my sights. And it's just been a real ding-dong battle since then, with Alan behind me then, and we were leading. You know, so far so good. You know, we're in the hunt. That's where we want to be.
You're aware that Bill Oberlin went upside down on the famous hump?
Yeah, I saw the damage, and I said, looks like same sort of thing as what happened to the Porsche, which is, you know, I just hope he's okay. You know, as soon as you see an accident like that, the first thoughts are the driver.
Bill is absolutely fine. He walked away from a very violent accident. But does that worry you? You're very careful at that point, following closely, because he was right behind someone.
Yeah, I mean, ever since the Porsche situation a few years ago, I've always maintained a really good air gap over any hump, anywhere we go in the world. So, you know, maybe Bill was just obviously that little bit too close. And even if there's 2 or 3 abreast, I back out just to make sure I got air. So, you know, it's one of those deals, you know.
David, thanks very much. Let's go up to the booth now.
Wow, there will be some discussion after this race as to what you do with sports car racing in general, because after Mercedes, they thought they had the problem handled with more downforce on the front of these cars. Not the case with what we see happen to Bill Oberlin in the BMW. Welcome back to the Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta. We have just a glorious sunshine day here. Derek Daly, Dorsey Schrader here on the booth. We have Calvin Fish and Andrew Marriott covering the action in the pits. We are under full course yellow for a spectacular crash involving Bill Oberlin in the number 43 BMW. They're cleaning the racetrack right now. There is debris everywhere, but a spectacular crash. Calvin, can you add?
Well, we're actually in the Audi pit right now, Derek. Emanuele Pirio's got out of the number 78 car. Looked like a tough battle there in traffic. You and David Brabham having a real ding-dong battle in the early laps. It's a 10-hour race. Where do you draw the line on how aggressive you have to be out there?
No, the thing is, the risk you take or the chance of an accident does not depend so much on how aggressive you are. It's just every time you approach a car, it's just like flipping the coin, and obviously the guy behind you is ready there to bite, you know. Unfortunately, I lost one mirror, which made my life much more difficult. And also, in one of these battles with few cars and David Brabham, I didn't see a yellow flag, and this cost me a stop and go, which is more than fair. But, you know, sometimes you got to watch 4 cars at a time, your position plus 2 or 3 back markers, and just missed the yellow, and that's quite sad. But fortunately, we gained a lap back. But really, this is my first race in Road Atlanta, but now I start realizing that it's only down to overtaking and keeping the car on the road. We've been testing here for quite a few days, trying to find the last bit of a split second. But when you're down there, you don't really do much with that, you know.
Okay, well, he's really explained that in detail. And Derek, as you know, this racetrack is very difficult with traffic. If you catch anyone after turn 1, you have to wait about 30 seconds to get a passing opportunity.
That is exactly right. And Dorsey, you've raced here so many times. And I believe you've been told, as we watch, this is actually on-board camera now with the number 43 car that did flip backwards. Unfortunately, our helicopter that needs to be up in the sky to beam these pictures to us was down refueling at the time, so we didn't actually have the onboard camera, but we have everything else. But Dorsey, you raced many times here and tested many times here. You've been told before how dangerous that rise is.
Dating back all the way to 1974, I came here the first time in a Formula B or a Formula Atlantic flat bottom, and they told us then, do not draft up this incline and then try to pop out because the dirty air will flip you over. Of course, Can-Am cars have flipped over in the 70s here, and now, of course, we've seen this accident sequence is not the first time, as we saw the Porsche, of course, last year.
Yeah, but flip overs have been big news in sports car racing over the last couple of years. Let's just have a look at what happened here 2 years ago with Yannick Dalmas in the factory Porsche. Watch what happens here. Look, like an aeroplane, he flips upside down and then destroys it into the concrete wall. And Dorsey, have a look at a slow-mo with this flip here. You can see exactly what happened.
Look, he's in the dirty air. The car right before him did that. Look, all the way around, 1.5 hits there, of course, totally out of control now. It bites, and this is a big, big impact head on into the concrete.
And let's go back to Le Mans 2 years ago, the Mercedes-Benz, and this was unbelievable. Flips upside down 4 or 5 times, completely cleared the racetrack and over across the trees. And then today,
Bill Auberlen, very lucky man to escape that secondary impact. All these cars landed back on their wheels, with the exception, of course, of the Mercedes. Of course, so that was Bill expressing his displeasure at the Rodriguez car not letting him by. That's the Raffinelli Lola. Now, I can tell you from being behind these cars, the dirty air is enormous. It buffets your head so bad. And then what happened there is they're going uphill, and that buffeting just got underneath the car.
yeah, we have seen these flips many, many times. And Andrew, I believe you've seen them many times.
Yes, I certainly have, but on Monday I had lunch with Mark Webber, who of course was in 2 flips in the Mercedes-Benz team. Obviously, Peter Dumbreck was the famous one because it happened in the race. But I talked to Mark Webber about this. Mark Webber said that the big problem was that they were running there with not very much downforce. They were very worried, Mercedes-Benz, that they were being blown off on sheer horsepower by Toyota. And they did wind a lot of the aerodynamics off the car, and a lot of the drivers were worried about it. But you remember at the time, you know, they were very coy about what happened. And Mark Webber said none of the drivers actually wanted to start the race, but they did.
Peter Dumbreck, if there's a funny side to it, I believe was given a citation for parking in the wrong place at the Le Mans 24-hour race, and he was given a breathalyzer test.
They probably had to buy
it to get a car.
He probably had to buy a ticket to get back in the race, too.
But believe it or not, when you get a car into a situation like that, it is standard French law that you get breathalyzed, believe it or not, as they did to Peter Dumbreck as he flipped the Mercedes. So, not a pleasant situation here at Road Atlanta with that spectacular backward flip by Bill Auberlen. We're just happy that Bill Auberlen escaped. We don't believe he has any serious injuries. We believe he has something wrong with one of his arms. As you look at our top floor, we go to break. We are back, and this is the remains, well, some of the remains of the BMW that was driven by Bill Auberlen. Did a backward flip. This is the shrapnel that broke off the car. The car essentially remained intact. Bill Auberlen is okay. He is gone to the medical center. We are going to get an update on him as soon as possible, but we know he walked away. We saw him. We think he just maybe hurt his arm. Calvin?
Well, as you can imagine, Derek, everyone up and down pit lane and watching the replays on the monitors as we speak, and there's a lot of concern from the LMP drivers, but I spoke to one of the Audi drivers. He preferred to be named, not to be named, but he said there's a rule change this year. The rear diffuser is longer. He says that accentuates the problem, and he said you come out of turn 7, you get a great draft coming out of there. It's very appealing, but you have to resist that urge to tuck underneath under the tail of someone else. So they've been thinking about that. It has been discussed since the Dalmas flip over a couple of years ago. The teams are looking at that, and they realize that it is a major concern when you're driving down that back straightaway.
Now, for those of you who are maybe just joined us, we want to show you in graphic detail again just what happened. You probably called your friends to tune into Speed Vision. Well, here it is. Top of your screen, Bill Auberlen behind the Raffinelli Lola launches himself upside down completely, 10 feet in the air, smashes right rear, and then he hits the concrete wall. Look at that car just break itself to pieces. But thankfully, Dorsey, the driver cockpit, their survival cell for the driver is fully intact.
Yeah, and that was an enormous hit. And people can't realize how hard when it hit the ground the first time, but the secondary hit head on into the wall. That was massive.
Remember, he takes off at about 125 miles an hour. And there is Charlie Lamb, the German who runs the Schnitzer BMW team, concern on his face now for JJ Leto in the other car. Welcome back to the American Le Mans Series. It is all calm just for a few minutes. We're about to go green again after that spectacular crash with Bill Oberlin. McNish leads, JJ Leto and Jörg Mueller are second in the BMW as we take the green, and McNish is on his way again. Clear of traffic, and just look at the traffic jam. There is the second of the BMWs, the number 42 car. I believe JJ Leto is still behind the wheel in that car. Boy, what a decision they now have to make.
Look at the 911 brigade go at it here. GT3s everywhere.
I will tell you, the number 71 car that was to be driven by Doc Bundy and Rowan Skay is actually out of the race because they ran over debris in that crash. That is the all-girls team, all-female team, I believe, right in front of the Raffinelli Lola. Yes, indeed it was.
Wow.
Running in 26th position.
Traffic
look
jam.
at a freeway traffic jam here. Wow. You better keep your nose clean. P cars, GT cars. The yellow 81, that is the all-female team. The all-female team, Cindy Lux, Davina Galitza,
look at this. Look at more
Belinda
traffic.
Endress. And I'll tell you what, this
oh my God.
This is as big a traffic jam as you've ever seen. All the headlights are Blair. All the P cars have white headlights, and all the GT cars and GTS cars have yellow headlights.
And the prototype guys cutting and thrusting these guys up. You've seen them banging around. They're just going all through here. It's quite frightening. Oh, we have a Panos in trouble back there at the very back of that shot. One of the cars.
Oh, the number 5, one of the Barber cars.
I think they got together. They must have got together.
Dirk Mueller is in that car. He's in all sorts of trouble. Meanwhile, let's quickly go to the pit lane because I believe we can have a word with the chief aerodynamicist for BMW. Calvin? Andrew, go ahead.
Tyson, Dr. Tyson, what are your feelings about that flip over there? What are your feelings of the flip over?
Well, we haven't had something like this up to now in all the 2 years. We know that our car is rather stable. To me, it was a very critical situation because some things went together. It's a bump on the track at this place. And Bill Oberlin was chasing Schiattarella. He had been chasing him already for 5 or more laps, desperately trying to overtake him. And at that point, he was quite at the rear of Schiattarella's car, and the Lola went over. And so any car completely loses downforce in such a situation, and you can't do anything about it anymore.
You can't replicate that in the wind tunnel.
No, you can't. You virtually can't. What we have to do, of course, you have to be careful in such a position. This shape of the track is really critical to these cars.
You're going to keep the other car in the race.
Sorry?
You will keep the other car, the other car into the race.
Yeah, we'll keep it. Yeah.
No qualms about that.
No, we talked to JJ and to Jörg. They have to keep a distance of about 1 car length, then it is okay.
Thanks very much. Let's go to Calvin in the Panos pit.
Well, the number 1 car was in, Andrew. He had it coming together. Jan Magnussen behind the wheel. He's been in and out. Not too much body damage to it. This was what was left of the left front wheel. He obviously ran on it for some time, destroyed the outer rim, and this tyre is no longer with the car when he came back in. We're hoping that he didn't damage the underneath of the car, so problems starting to arise, and it seems to be traffic is the big concern here this afternoon.
And that is exactly what the Panos car did not want. Magnussen to trip over one of the GT cars, and all the great work that David Brabham did to get that car into the lead has now been thrown away with the coming together. The Panos against the number 5 car, which is another one of Dick Barber's cars. Dirk Mueller was behind the wheel. Both of those drivers just got in Dorsey, maybe they didn't realize how bad the traffic was.
Well, I think the Dirk Mueller car might have been the car leading in GT3, and of course, these prototypes, you saw the traffic jam, you saw how many cars there are, but still in all, these restarts are going to be like that every single time. A little patience is needed. We're nowhere near halfway even.
Oh, did you see Alan McNish? Did you see that? Come down the inside, had to go over the curbs, and then he shakes his fist. Wow.
And that was the Italian type of, I think that was I know what he meant, though.
Get used to it, Alan. That's a universal language. Irish, Scottish, or American. We know what the shake fist is. But get used to it. Don't get frustrated and keep yourself focused and in line here. Just want to quickly say to Mike Birch, who just sent us an email, yes, there is an all-female team. We just mentioned them, and they are currently in 26th position. Linda Simmons from Venice, Florida, new fan to American Le Mans Series. Why do they run 3 classes together? That is part of what sports car racing has always done, and that is part of what it makes it so great as we watch the #1 car in again. Calvin?
He's back in. They changed that left front, Derek, but we believe there's suspension damage. When he got back on course at speed, big problem with the steering. I just spoke to Chris Gorn, who engineers this car, and he said there may be a bent toe link, a bent track rod, something under there, and Jan Magnussen cannot drive this car at speed. Andrew?
Well, I'm with Dick Barber. Dick, your car seemed to be the punch balls for the rest of the field.
I'm sorry, Andrew.
Yeah, your car seemed to be the punch balls for the rest of the prototype field. They're hitting them all left, right, and center.
I think that's 8 times in 3 races now, Andrew. So I don't exactly feel very good about that, but that's racing. We'll keep fighting on.
Meanwhile, a long way to go, and you're still obviously hoping to win the GT category here.
Well, that's what we're here for. You know, the guys are good, the team's good, and crew's worked hard. We're going to give it our best, Andrew.
Now, of course, you've got a legend racing your car. You've renewed an old partnership with Paul Newman. I know that makes you happy.
Yeah, it sure does. Paul and I raced together 21 years ago when we were both a little bit younger. And we had a great class victory at Le Mans. He's a super driver, and he's already the fastest of the 3 drivers in the car by far.
That's unbelievable. Thank you, Dick. Best of luck. It's a long way to go.
Thank you, Andrew.
Great to see Dick Barber back. I think he took about a 20-year hiatus and then came back. Remarkable success, though, 20 years ago with the Porsches. But let's just take a little peek at a replay. This is the number 5 Porsche. Oh, just got whacked right there by the Panos. There he is right there, Magnussen, in all sorts of trouble. Wow, look at Schiattarella, or De Radiguez is in the car and almost hit the number 5 car. Second angle on board the Olive Garden car. Dorsey.
Look at the panels coming up the inside. Now there's no room up the top of that hill. Look here, boom! Gets into the 5 car. Lucky they didn't have a big accident right there. Now you see the smoke coming out. Damage has been done to both cars. One moment of indiscretion, their race is now effectively over.
You know what? I will tell you, that might have been a little bit too ambitious by Magnussen to think that he could squeeze around the outside on a left-hander right before the braking zone. They may regret that for the rest of the 8.5 hours of this 10 hours of Petit Le Mans. We'll be back. We are back and we are live at Road Atlanta. You're on board with the leading car. This is Alan McNish, who is still in the car, 76 laps into this race. It may be as long as 10 hours or 1,000 miles. And of course, we're not going to sit here for the whole of that event. We're going to have some relief. The relief will come in the form of Greg Creamer and Jeremy Dale, who are in the middle of the mix down on the track.
Well, thanks, Derek, and hi, everybody. And Jeremy and I indeed are going to be coming up and giving you guys a well-deserved break in just a little bit. But until that time, we've had an opportunity to watch this race from the infield. One thing that's notable, Jeremy, this crowd is immense. Biggest crowd here since the mid-'80s.
Yeah, it's a great crowd, Greg, and I'll tell you, these guys are running flat out.
Of course, the strategy is a big issue. They can't drop the ball in strategy, but also the speed is so important, and these guys are just running tooth and nail. They are laying in some unbelievable laps. It's great to watch. But Jeremy was talking about the execution of strategy. Remember last year, BMW looked to have this one wrapped up, and Jörg Mueller had a very close meeting with this stretch of gravel, called the beach, and that he threw it in there, and that turned it over to the Panos for the win. You can't miss a step. Gentlemen, we'll see you in just a little bit, but until then, we got some racing to watch.
Yes, indeed, Greg. Indeed, we do, Greg. Thank you. As we look down through the GTS battle, or the GT battle. Traffic has played such an important role here. The email question, remember, asks us why do they run all three of these classes together? It's always the way they've done it, and it has been excitement all the way. This is the number 93 car. David Donahue started this car. He is with Belloc and Dominic Dupuis. We're not sure. I believe they did a driver change, and I think it is Belloc who is in that car now. That is Jan Magnussen back out. They did repair something on that left front. We don't know what it was, but they now have fallen way down. They're still in the top 10, but they are now 3 full laps behind, running in 9th place overall, just ahead of the Angelelli Cadillac. The Angelelli Wayne Taylor Cadillac, who rounds out the top 10.
And there's a wonderful GTS battle. These guys never get out of sight of one another. There, of course, the Corvette, the yellow Corvette, 2 cars separating it from its rival, the Viper, and they have done this all year long. They're always in the same picture frame, these guys.
Yes, indeed, and the GTS is ahead in that battle. Kelly Collins is behind the wheel. He took over from Andy Pilgrim. Carl Wendlinger is behind him in the number 91 car, but you're right, they always seem to be on the same piece of track forever whenever these races are going on. This is a huge fight and has been all season long. There is Kelly Collins in the number 4 car. The number 3 car has Chris Nightfall behind the wheel. They are 14th overall, and they are 4th in the GTS class. So they got themselves into a little bit of trouble. Led the class earlier, now dropped back to 4th. There is Magnussen again. And Dorsey, sometimes when they repair this, they don't get it all right. And if you just don't feel right, you just can't put these things on the ragged edge where you have to if you're going to run close to these Audis.
Now look here, right there, the Panos catches up with the back of the Corvette. Coming up here through turn 5.
See the blue flags with the corner marshals. You just saw them on the right-hand side there, trying to alert the drivers, particularly the Corvette drivers, that something fast is passing you by.
You know, when you bend
in a second.
You bend one of those toe links like what they were talking about on the Panos, and the mechanics go out there and repair it, but they don't have time to align it proper, so they just guess at it, and if they don't like it, they'll put a half a turn in it for you.
Yep.
And it's you're right, it's hard to commit to the level you need to when you don't have a 100% car underneath you.
Great racetrack here at Road Atlanta, now in its 30th year of competition. Went through many owners, went bankrupt, I believe, in sometime in the mid-90s. And then, of course, Don Panos came in and bought it. Back on board now with number 5. Ooh, there goes one of those dreaded P cars. Leaves him alone this time.
Yeah, he's already taken his shot. He doesn't need another one.
As Dick Barber says, well, that's racing. He doesn't really feel like that.
No, he doesn't feel that way at all. Well, let's take a look right now. You see those guys flying by. Dirk Mueller in the car, we believe, and I don't see that there's much wrong with it. I think the car's okay, except they lost the time in the pits repairing the flat tire and the broken wheel, etc.
Yeah, in fact, they lost the lead. Now Boris Said in the BMW leads the GT category from Randy Popes, Bruno Lambert, and Lazzaro in the second place GT car. Then Masson and Wallach and Lucas Luhr and Dirk Mueller. This is on board, in fact, with Hans Stuck. Boris Said started this car, ran so well, hands it over to Hans Stuck, of course knows these cars very well.
And Boris loves driving with Stuckey because he says he's one of the guys that he doesn't have to adjust the seat. Of course, both of these guys, pretty tall boys, both can pedal that race car too, I guarantee you.
BMWs have done well here for over the years. There is not many low-speed corners that they have had to accelerate out from. Therefore, the lower displacement in their engine and the torque that they have to give up to the Porsche, which is a rear engine car, does not affect them that much here.
You know, they had a preliminary race before this, a Volkswagen Beetle race for all celebrities, and Stuckey there spanked the field. He started toward the back pretty good and battled his way to the front literally, and ended up winning that.
A lot of changes on this new BMW M3. More horsepower. Suspension geometry has changed, and Yokohama have actually developed a new tire, and the package has just put them a lot closer than they've been to the Porsche every other race except Sears Point this year. What a titanic struggle that was with the Porsche and the BMW. Don't go away. We're back, we are live at the Petit Le Mans. Quick update, hour 2. Have a look at this here. Spectacular crash. Bill Orban does a backward flip in the BMW, destroys the car and escapes virtually unscathed. Well, that was scary. Right at the top of the second hour. Bill Orban, it says, he's on his way back to the medical center. He was checked over, but then it was, ooh, the Panos tries to go inside. The number 5 Dick Barber car drop kicks him and puts himself into the pit lane. Meanwhile, life gets easier for Alan McNish, but I believe this was Xavier Pompidou in the Viper. Man, that was just after 2 hours. Remember the deer that ran across the racetrack earlier on? We had loads of spins. We've seen one of the Cadillacs in the gravel trap that caused a full course yellow. This is full action. We're just over 2 hours into a 10-hour race.
Gives him a wave right there, 157 miles an hour through there. He was waving a competitor who let him go. He saw him and moved over and let your leader, McNish, run right up the inside there, and that was a thank you.
Yeah, the Corvette leads the GTS battle, and the BMW, which stuck behind the wheel, leads the GT battle. Now remember also, as we ride on board here with Alan McNish, you can have a look at the telemetry here. Today we are also interactive. Right here in our booth, we have a computer that you can email us. We've had hundreds and hundreds of emails so far. Just go on to speedvision.com, click on the line, and send your email questions and comments directly to our booth here. Eric Hansen just sent us one, and he asks, will the new Celine campaign their new car in 2001? The answer is, according to the press conference, yes. In fact, they're planning to race that car at Laguna Seca, the very next race. That is a spectacular car, and we wait to see what that will do. That will be in the GTS category.
In the meantime, on board, the telemetry shows right there McNish hitting 185 mile per hour in the straightaway. Not as fast as they did in qualifying, which is to be expected because they probably put some downforce in the car. Let's ride on board the Corvette right now, see what it's up to. It's up in turn 3. Oh, and there's the team car slicing across front. That was close. And we must have trouble. We got trouble.
Chris Nightfall is behind the wheel, and he seems to be in trouble. We don't know what is wrong there.
Listen to the motor here. It sounds like it's on all 8 still.
What is wrong with that? Those other 2 cars just went by him way, way too fast.
Boy, look at the rubber coming off the back of the Viper. They're in a tough right now. They're in a real go at it. Both of the cars up front are leaving black marks as they get off the corner. Their wheels spinning.
Kelly Collins, we believe, was in the Corvette that just passed the number 3 car.
Well, it seems to be up to speed, but boy, those 2 guys just blew by.
Yes. We didn't see any traffic. We didn't see a reason for him to have to slow down. He's staying with the pack right now.
Actually made some time right there in the brake zone.
Yeah.
So maybe he missed a gear as he came out of turn 5. It's an uphill pull, and if you miss your upshift, those guys would go right by. We're hearing that the pit crew says there's nothing wrong with that car. I think he missed a gear. McNish did, though. He goes right there. That was the overall leader. Look at the speed.
Yes, just the velocity of these P cars when they go by the GT or the GTS cars. It is just enormous. So Kelly Collins in the number 4 Chevrolet Corvette leads the GTS class. Carl Wendlinger is in the first of the Vipers. He is running 2nd. And then Tommy Archer and Heisman, it is, I believe, Patrick Heisman in the 2nd of the GT of the Vipers shows in 3rd. And there's the all-female team. Just got past.
Oh, speaking of getting past.
How close was that?
That's
Yikes.
That's what it looks like from a driver's standpoint, too. I'm sure he didn't even have a clue that Motorola Cadillac was there. They swapped a little paint.
Can you believe that? I mean, that is what happens here. The speed differential is so enormous.
Remember, these guys can't see out the back of these cars.
He went across his bows so fast there. On board now with Hans Stuck. Johannes van Overbeek is the third driver that will get into this car. A lot of work on this M3. A lot of work done by Tom Milner. I want to show you our telemetry here again. You can have a look at the speeds up the hill.
Well, 116 miles an hour. Listen now as he accelerates through the S's. Flat out through here, listen. A little breathe. There goes the leader, overall leader going by.
Remember now, we saw in excess of 185 miles an hour for the leader down this next straight. Let's watch with the BMW. Stay on board here. Now what's the speed? Top gear at 119 miles an hour. No, 134 before he even picks top gear. Here's another one. 150 miles an hour before he gets top gear.
154 for top end, so you've got 30 mile per hour difference.
How many gears he got in that thing?
He's got one more than we normally hear.
Six-speed
right
gearbox. Didn't pick top
no,
gear.
78 car is slowing. That is the second of the Audis. Listen.
Let's go on board. Frank Biela behind the wheel. In trouble earlier with Pirro when he was black flagged.
Well, now he's up to rev limit. Looks like he's pushing the button, talking to the pit crew on the radio. You saw the lights on the dash. That's the rev limiter shift indicator light. So he's running it to red line.
Okay, we're going to stay on board here with Frank Biela to see the right side mirror gone. That was what Pirro said.
Does not pit.
Does not pit, but Pirro said the mirror was gone, and that was one of the reasons why he couldn't see behind him. Took his attention away, and he didn't quite see the yellow flag. I will tell you, driving without a rear view mirror on the right side of a right-handed racetrack is downright scary sometimes. So Frank Biela ran slow for a while. Now he appears to be back up to speed.
Welcome back to the Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta. The number 15 GT car is in. Wars has jumped out, and PLN, Blue Eyes himself, is in there right now. He's had so much success here over the years. He's won 4 amateur championships at the runoffs. He ran great at Daytona a few years ago, winning in class for Jack Rush, and now we see him. They're doing a little bit of work on the back end of the car. He's waiting for the signal. Looks like there may be a 10-second penalty here. Maybe there are too many guys over the wall, or one of the teams actually got penalized for not having a fire extinguisher when they are refueling. And we're unsure of the reason, but this will just make him be that little bit more patient, Derek. As you mentioned, he's a real aggressive driver. He's really quick in the fast corners, but in the slow stuff, he really needs to just slow it down a notch or two to be effective. But PLN is behind the wheel, and we're looking forward to seeing him on track here in a couple of moments.
And don't forget here, as we see Paul Newman fire this thing up, he is 75 years experienced. He won the Rolex 24-hour race at Daytona at the age of 70 in 1995. He's with Michael Brockman and Randy Wars, and he is the fastest of those 3 guys. As we see one of our Vipers in trouble here. The number 91 car that was second in the GTS category. Carl Wendlinger is behind the wheel, and you know what? We don't know, but I would almost bet he hit somebody. That seems to be what's happening here.
He's going to lose that whole outer part there. The whole tire is going to come flying out and go somewhere before he gets back to the pits.
You see, is there any damage on the right front dorsey as you look closely there?
Can't tell if there's damage.
No,
it's not bad if there is damage. It's definitely cut down.
It's a long way back to the pits now.
Yeah, and look at the cars coming behind him. That tire can go at any time.
Yeah, Kelly Collins now pulls further away in the Corvette. Tommy Archer with...
Oh, it locks up badly, and they're braking now on the carcass. There's the leader going by.
Leading car gets through.
He gets out of the way. That's the good news. and he will make it to the pits with that tire intact.
There's his teammates, all three in a row here. One lame duck and 2 flyers. Karl Wendlinger probably will do a driver change too. So Karl Wendlinger, quick update, another email. Chris Leppard just said, what happened to number 10 BMW? It blew up earlier on. Calvin?
The 91 Viper is in. You see a big black tyre mark on the right front corner of the car, and the right tyre is flat. Wendlinger jumps out. It's going to be Marc Duez, the Belgian, jumping in to take over the 3rd stint behind the wheel. The engineers are looking inside, seeing if there's any other damage. They cannot touch the car while the car is being refueled. Brake and tire technicians are allowed to inspect the tires and look closely, but nothing can be touched until the fueling is done. The fueling is done, driver change, of course, can be started. Now they go to that right front. They're going to pull it off. I'm sure they'll take a look in there. Actually, it's a very brief look. They just throw another right front on. You see the body clip is off on the right front corner. I'm not sure if they're going to notice that. And they go to the left, to the right rear now. They're tightening that one up, but you see a body clip here on the right front corner. They find it, someone points that out from over the wall, click that back up, Marc Duez back underway.
Just great camera shots there from our pit crew. You saw everything. You can see the marks on the car. Maybe we can get a word with Karl Wendlinger, but he definitely rubbed up too hard against somebody, and the amount of time it takes to actually make your way around with a punctured tire, particularly when you're fighting against a Corvette that has got every bit as much speed as you have, boy, you put yourself at a huge disadvantage.
What's worse from that, I speculate, as I looked out from my booth right here, I saw a lot of smoke on pit straight. It could have happened right in front of our booth, which means he had to do an entire lap.
Yes.
With that flat tire.
And meanwhile, Alan McNish keeps himself clean so far.
Oh, there's a car around backwards there. We just saw that in turn 6, I believe it was. There is the 52.
Number 52 car, that is in our GT category. Burgess, Kurt Matchison, and Grady Willingham. They get themselves back under shade. Let's go to Calvin. Calvin?
Carl, we saw a little black mark on the right front corner. Traffic today is unbelievable, both with the slower cars and the P cars pushing their way through. What happened to you on course?
At the end of the long straight, under braking, one of the panels touched me. I was already down in 3rd gear and it still touched me then. And then the front right tire was gone, was broken.
Do you guys talk during the course of the weekend? You know this racetrack is very difficult to get out of the way, even if you see them. Do you speak to the P drivers and discuss this prior to the race?
Yeah, we discussed, but I don't think there's a lot to change now.
Okay, as you can see there, guys, Carl is very upset about this incident. A lot of the P cars are pretty much being too aggressive out there today, causing problems.
Wow, he is livid as Paul Newman moves over and lets Alan McNish through. Remember, Karl Wendlinger almost lost his life in a crash in the Grand Prix of Monte Carlo a couple of weeks after Ayrton Senna lost his life. But Wendlinger happily made it back to motorsports.
Speed Vision's coverage of the Petit Le Mans is brought to you by Audi and Pirelli and your local Pirelli retailer.
We're back and we are live, and that is your leading car. They have just made a pit stop, and believe it or not, Alan McNish, who must be a horse, has stayed in. He is now about to start at least a triple stint. He's done 95 laps. They have 3 drivers. They also have Capello and Alboreto available to go in this car. He says he wants to stay in. Calvin?
Reinhold, Alan McNish, he's a little terrier, isn't he? He doesn't want to get out of the car today.
Yes, he's very good. He drives very well, and this was just a refuel stop. Next time we change to Dindo.
How is the tyre conservation going? I know Alan is very light on the tyres. He doesn't abuse the tyres. You're doing double stints. Can you stretch it to 3 stints on the tyres possibly today?
No, this is not a 3 stint. This is the 2 half stint. You know, it's a yellow. Then everything is in control, and the next time we change to Dindo, what I say.
Okay, it'll be Dindo Capello getting in next, and of course we have the 2nd place runner in the pits right now, Andrew.
Stopped on the board, and JJ Leto is climbing out of the car. Jörg Muller is getting into the car. He's going to have to turn his brain into endurance mode now, because JJ Leto, as he bolts in Jörg Müller. Jörg Müller has just come back from testing the Michelin tyres. Remember, Michelin are going Formula 1 next year, and Jörg Müller is doing all the testing of those Michelin tyres. He's just come back from testing those in France. He's been rushing around in a Formula 1 car, and now he's got to get his brain into a new gear. I'm sure Jörg will be able to do that, and I'm sure Jörg will be remembering that he threw the race here, threw away the race last year.
Very good point, Andrew. 3 or 4 laps from the end, they had a rear braking problem in this particular car, locked up the rear brakes and threw the thing off into the gravel trap, and of course handed the race win to Panos. Mueller, of course, running the Williams BMW Formula 1 car as they develop those Michelin tires. Pierre Dupasquier from Michelin is here. He was in Indianapolis last week just to watch and observe and see what's going on. But when Michelin and Bridgestone go head-to-head in Formula 1 next year, it'll be good. This is Justin Bell. He has just got in to the number 3 Chevrolet Corvette that is currently running in 3rd place overall in the GTS category. Big off at the top of the S's with one of the Vipers. One of the Vipers off the road big time.
One of the few places on this racetrack you can get off of the road and get back to it without damage.
Alan McNish again inside one of the P cars. Here's a replay, see if we can see what happened here. That is the BMW. Oh, number 66 lose it right in front of everybody. That was the car Kevin Buckler started. Philip Collins and Jim McCallion were in those cars also, and the BMW driven by Mueller just about misses, having just got in, taken over from JJ Leto. Calvin? Andrew.
Yeah, it's Andrew down here with JJ Leto. But you don't know this, JJ, but your car's just had another near miss with one of the slow runners.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that. I think that it was similar case than Yannick had, 2 years ago. So I don't really know what happened. There was just a big mess when I went by, and luckily at least Phil was okay.
How did you feel about continuing to race?
Well, the race is going as it was planned, we're going flat out as fast as we can. We can't go faster.
Well, remember last year, you were the front runners last year, and then you lost it right at the end. This year, it could be the other way round.
Well, hopefully. This is what we need this year.
JJ, thank you.
I think JJ Leto looks remarkably fresh. We're now joined here in the booth by Greg Creamer. They've made their way from the side of the racetrack. Jeremy Dale is also here. Greg, I know you've watched very closely what Alan McNish is up to.
Well, it's not really a surprise to me when he stayed in the car, and the reason is I watched him very closely over in turn 1 as well as when we went out to the infield, and that car looks far more stable, planted, and smooth than any of the other cars. Now, I remember earlier in the show, Calvin did a report that they were running a little bit of a different setup on the car, a bit softer, and I don't think McNish is working anywhere near as hard in the car as some of the others are. He also is going through one with far more speed than anybody else, and that's the result of this big lead. But I think McNish, 1, is in a zone like he was at Sears Point, but 2, the car is far more driver friendly than any of the other cars I've seen out there, at least in the P category.
So we are just about at the top of the hour. Quick reset. McNish is a comfortable lead. Biela is second in the second of the Audis. Then we have the first of the BMWs, the only remaining BMW. In the GTS category, Kelly Collins is still in that Chevrolet Corvette, chased by 2 Vipers. Ron Fellows, who started the number 3 Corvette, now driven by Justin Bell, which you're on board with right now. Chris Nightfall just got out. They are 4th overall in GTS, and Hans Stuck, who is behind the wheel of the number 7 BMW, is leading the GT category. Jeremy Dale, does it look as scary from the outside, traffic-wise, as we see here on the screen?
Well, I'll tell you, Derek, on Thursday night, they did run night practice here because they want to give the guys time in the dark. I went out during night practice, and that was really a remarkable experience to watch these cars. The Viper gets a little wide there, coming onto the back straightaway, locks the inside wheel. Corvette goes by. And I'll tell you what, the closing rates, when you get out there, and unfortunately the television doesn't capture it, the onboards do a good job, but the closing rates are just unbelievable, especially when you consider the GTP cars and the GT cars, and these guys running side by side in the braking zone.
Rates, exactly. Look at this. I mean, this is who plays chicken here. Look at this here, the number 91. Dominic Dupuis is now behind the wheel of that Viper. But man, this GTS battle. Mark Duez. Is it Mark Duez in the 91? Mark Duez in the 91.
And that's a perfect example. If you're a
And
GTP
Justin
car,
Bell.
if you're a P car and you roll up on those guys side by side like that, where do you go? What do you do? And those guys in the P cars, every lap are throwing the dice about twice a lap, making decisions that are really on the edge, and that's why we've seen so much contact with all of these cars.
Yes, indeed.
You know what you have to do because of these GTS cars are so fast on top end. As a P driver, you have to make yourself outbrake them in the brake zone. So you make that commitment, you dive on in there. Well, it doesn't always work that way, as we've seen.
Still on board, or we're on board with Justin Bell. Gets up to speed very quickly.
Did you see how much curb Justin Bell used coming out of 5? You can literally launch the car over that curb and get a real good run out of 5. The problem is definitely very tough on the race car.
No, Jeremy, the one thing I saw last time, because the Corvette had a better line, it was in fact faster, and it is faster right now. But watch top end. I think the Viper, once we nose over this hill, I think the Viper's going to open it up.
There's a Lola coming here somewhere. I know there's a Lola in this
Debris flag up ahead, guys. There was a oil flag, debris flag right up ahead.
Oh, squeezes down in the braking zone. Justin Bell comes down inside the Viper. Yes, he pulls it off.
And there's that Lola behind the Viper. I knew he was close. I saw him rolling up at turn 6. There he is on the run down to 12.
Ooh.
So, Justin Bell gets down inside the number 91 Viper. Boy, these boys are going at it.
You know, you guys were talking earlier about the concerns that some of the GTS and the GT cars have about getting sideswiped by the prototypes as they go by and the like, and it has happened. But this track, sort of like Sears Point, is so serpentine that there isn't really a lot of straight sections where a guy can pull over, go by
one of the P cars off
come
right
back
there.
in, yeah. So you got to be very, very careful. It's always bending and twisting, and like you said, Jeremy, it's a throw of the dice. Which way is a guy in front of you going to go? And you have to guess right almost. You know, it's an educated guess, but it's not a great one.
But by far the scariest moment we've had involved this man here. We're so glad to see him with a smile on his face, Bill Orban. And Andrew?
Well, Bill, it's great to see you in one piece. You're a member of that exclusive Upside Down club now.
Wow, well, isn't that great? I mean, I didn't want to be a member, and Mom, I'm okay, everything is fine, but the BMW was running fine. We were tuning it from pit stop to pit stop because we were struggling a little bit, and everything was okay. I was following the Olive Garden car for 10.
Bill, let me start. Let's look at it. I think we can turn some tape, and we'll actually look at our live coverage and Speed Vision, and just take us through it.
Ha! It's the first time I've ever seen it, so, I mean, I was behind the Olive Garden car.
Got another version.
Yeah, let's see it one more time.
Here's the slow.
Well, it's pretty. I was always staying to the right, and you see that the Olive Garden car pulled out real quickly to pass the Corvette, and he cut my air off. And it was so extreme when he came in front of me that it sucked my head forward and it sucked my visor open before I took off.
There was a little concern about your arm, but it looks fine.
You know, you have something like this and you don't really know how bad you're hurt. Am I hurt? Nothing hit really hard. It was soft and smooth, but I got one scratch on my arm, but I didn't know if I cut my arm off. But no, it's fine, no worries.
What about that? You were aware that that was a difficult, dangerous place?
Yeah, and that's why I never wanted to be behind somebody. I would always leave part of the car open, but I never expected somebody to shoot out like that. When he shot out, I pulled right, he pulled right. I was trying to get the draft to get by, and he completely concealed the front downforce of my car, and it was just too much.
Well, now you're going to look forward to racing in California and Laguna Seca. Look forward to California and Laguna Seca.
Yeah, there's nothing like this in Laguna, but we had a good car. We had a car that we knew would be strong. The BMW team did a great job. The engine was perfect, and we could be there. Now it's for 42. They got to go and win this one.
Wow, remarkably relaxed. Go home and relax, Bill. You know what he relaxes with? Bill Orban relaxes with an 1,100 horsepower Carrera open bow catamaran that recently set a Powerboat magazine world speed record. So even when he relaxes, he's going fast. McNish still leads. We'll be back. Welcome back live here on Speed Vision to the Petit Le Mans. But we'd like to give you just a quick peek at the 2001 endurance racing coverage you will see right here on Speed Vision. You will see the full Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. Then we will move on to the 12 Hours of Sebring. As we did last year, the full 24 Hours of Le Mans will be shown. And then, of course, live flag-to-flag coverage of the Petit Le Mans Series, October 6th next year. The leading GTS car, Pilgrim, Collins, and Frank Freon. I believe it is Kelly Collins that got out. Frank Freon, the Frenchman, will get in. Frank Freon, former single-seater driver, Indy Lights Rookie of the Year at one stage. Frank Biela comes in. He has not done a triple stint like Alan McNish has, so he's not been in nearly as long as Alan McNish. We saw him run slowly earlier on. One of the GTS cars, it looked like a bit of trouble right ahead of him, the number 93 car. That is Dominic Dupuis, Belloc, and David Donahue. And let's reintroduce you to Sandy Heng, who's down in the Audi pit. Sandy?
Right now they're taking on fuel, and as you see, they're prepared to take a few tires. It does take a few moments. Now the fuel is finished. They're pushing it back, out and around, trying to get it out of the pits. You can understand the wiper was right in front of it. They didn't have clearance. No tires. They're out of the way.
So as we come up now in about hour 3, myself and Dorsey Schrader are just going to take a little bit of a break and put you into the very capable hands of Greg Creamer and Jeremy Dale.
Thanks very much, Derek. Great job. We were able to sit in and listen to some of that as well, and the coverage has been superb. I heard Derek talking about the onboards, and they have been giving us, Jeremy, some incredible views. One thing I noticed with the stop of this number 93 Viper was they had to struggle to pull the car back. I think he overshot his actual fueling rig, and they're still trying to juggle the car around a bit.
Well, the Audi was in the pit lane when the Viper arrived, so you know, these are not small cars. You know, I think a lot of people tend to think that these are petite cars. It might be the Petit Le Mans, but certainly the cars are quite large, and so when the pit boxes get full up down there, it's very easy to you know, miss your pit box.
Well, Sandy, I understand you made your way over to that stop.
That's exactly what happened. The Audi pulled in first. They had to come around. There wasn't enough space, so they did make a tire change. They also made a driver change. Dominic is now in the car, and they're taking on fuel. They did have to back the car up so that they could align the ports and take on fuel, and so now that's what they're doing, and in just a moment they're going to take off.
So Dominic Dupuis now behind the wheel, there you go, of that Viper, and going to be a little bit here. Now they fire up. You mentioned these are not exactly small cars. When you got a V10, the size of that 8-liter in the Viper, you need a little bit of car to be able to put that in. The rest of the field coming around on board once again with your leader, Alan McNish, the Iron Man from Scotland. We'll be right back. 2 or more years ago, this area of Georgia's was more known for wine than world-class sports car racing. However, a continent away, there was a race called the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Well, the owner of the Chateau Elan, Don Panos, he had a vision. He had seen sports cars race at Road Atlanta, but he had also seen sports cars race at Le Mans. After attending that race, when Porsche scored that amazing victory, he put the vision into, well, reality, really, as he created the American Le Mans Series. A direct connection to the 24 Hours of Le Mans in terms of rules and approach to the sport. He had then the Petit Le Mans. Of course, there were certain memorable moments in that event for sure, but in the ensuing years, the crowd has grown. And as Jeremy and I talked about a little bit earlier from the infield, the biggest crowd on hand here in some 15 years. The vision of the Petit Le Mans and the American Le Mans Series, Jeremy, I think has indeed become a reality, and a vibrant one.
Well, certainly in the very short number of years that this event has been, a little brake fire there on one of the Vipers, and that's not a super serious issue. As you can see, the guys trying to blow it out there. I believe Sandy's down there.
Doesn't appear to be a super serious issue, but they do have a small fire right there in the brake line of the left front. They're also making a driver switch at this time. Tommy Archer is getting in the car. Look at this. They're trying to get him blown out. Looks like they've done it. You know, we mentioned earlier how precise they need to pull in the pits. That line actually is only about 5 feet. They don't have a lot of leverage. They have about 1.5 to 2 feet of maneuvering room, and beyond that, they need to get into the position pretty closely. And it looks like they've got that fire out now, and they're changing the left rear tire.
Well, it was Patrick Huysman, we believe, that was in the car, and now Tommy Archer, the American, who has raced these cars very successfully in Europe, and of course one of the drivers, along with David Donnie, who finally got the win in the Viper for the Americans, if you will, at Sears Point, Jeremy.
And you can see they've taken the wheel off. Of course, there's built-up rubber that comes not only off the tires from this race car, but off the racetrack itself, ends up centrifugally held into the inner well of the wheel, and so when the car stops, of course, the brakes are hot, the wheels are hot, and it is possible for that stuff to ignite.
Let's go back a minute. When we heard Bill Oberlin's comment after he got out of the car when Andrew interviewed him, and he made the comment that as he was staying to the right, trying to make sure he had some air on the nose of his car, when the Olive Garden Lola drifted across, he said it literally sucked his head forward and his visor popped open. If ever there is an example of the strength of aerodynamics at this level of the sport, at those speeds, that was it, Jeremy.
Well, at that point on the racetrack, the cars are going close to 150 miles an hour, probably about 145. And of course, when someone takes that air, keep in mind, these cars pushing through the air at such an incredible rate of speed are moving a great deal of air. And so when all of a sudden that air disappears, essentially you're in a vacuum. And here we are on board with McNish as he goes by that Olive Garden car, and essentially you're in a vacuum. And so that's what Bill was talking about, literally sucking that visor up and pulling him forward in the seat of that car.
Well, Andrew, Bill was talking to you about that comment, and it was absolutely remarkable in its revelation, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I've got one of the BMW refuelers helmets down here, essentially the same as Bill's. Only just look at this visor here. I'll lift it up if I may. And it's against a very hard ratchet. Really, you have to push a lot of pressure here to get that visor to go up. So it just gives you some sort of idea of the forces that were involved. Of course, the forces afterwards were absolutely even more massive. An extraordinary accident. And, you know, I talked to Bill, as you saw a few moments ago, but I just couldn't believe how cool he was. I mean, it was almost as if he enjoyed it.
Yeah, but Bill's hair has never stood quite that straight up before, I don't think.
Well, guys, keep in mind also that when you take the air off the front of the car, the air generally will get to the rear of the car. The rear wings on these cars live out behind the center line of the rear wheels, which means the rear wing has leverage on the car. So when you lose the air to the front, that rear wing really works against you, and that is one of the factors that plays into that car getting upside down.
We just had a look from the backs, out the back of the number 7 BMW, and you also see the number 23 machine right there, Bruno Lambert, now behind the wheel. That's the car that sat on pole in the GT division in the hands of Randy Popes. They've got Bruno Lambert. Those two have won a couple races this year, and they've been joined, as you see, by a driver who knows this track intimately, Anthony Lazzaro, former Formula Atlantic champion, you know, in the Toyota Atlantic Championship Pro Series.
And interesting, you know, a lot of these teams going with a 3-driver lineup, a lot of the guys going with a 2-driver lineup, and certainly different philosophies on that. I think a lot of the guys like running with 2 drivers. You know, certainly when you run with 2 drivers, fewer compromises with the car, with the setup, with the seating, with the ergonomics, the rest of that package. Of course, when you run with 3 drivers, it keeps everyone fresher, and that is a key component because these guys are, as we've already said, running essentially flat out. They're running these races now. Endurance racing is really involved into long-distance sprint racing, and that's what all these guys are doing. That's what J.J. Lato said. So when you run with 3 drivers, everyone's able to stay just that little bit fresher, and that can be a real advantage.
One of the trends in endurance racing, which revealed itself quite a bit at Le Mans this year, is the increased use of physios, the physical therapists. And in talking to them, most of them said if you can get a driver in 2 stints and get them out of the car, they'll come back, they'll rejuvenate much quicker than they will if they're in for a 3rd under most circumstances. So that's why I think some of these teams have gone with 3. This is a much cooler day than they may have expected here in Atlanta, Georgia area. So I think maybe running with 2 drivers will work this time.
Well, of course, the heat plays up pretty seriously with the GT cars, although the Porsches aren't as bad as the Corvettes and the Vipers. Corvettes and Vipers extremely hot in the cockpit of those cars. The prototypes, you know, they are open cockpit cars. They are still quite warm, though, but certainly not as bad as the GT cars. But that's a good point, Greg. It's not as warm today as these guys might have expected. But you're right. If you do 3 or more stints, the way Alan McNish is doing, it is tougher to bounce back from that and really freshen yourself up again.
Well, we continue as we head toward the darkness, which is coming up, and not that far a time here at Road Atlanta for the Petit Le Mans. It's currently McNish leading. Leading in GTS is the Corvette, and leading in GT, the BMW. We'll be right back. After becoming a fan of racing with the movie Winning in 1979, Paul Newman came to Road Atlanta, driving right there, one of those Nissans that he became so familiar with, and went on to win, I believe, the first of 4 national championships driving in the Nissan. A lot of success for Paul Newman here at Road Atlanta over the years, and of course he did some Trans Am racing here, and one of the Trans Am races set a fast lap. A lot of success for Newman in the past at Road Atlanta. Of course, today he was making his return to Road Atlanta after a bit of an absence, and he is out of the car. The reason? Contact, although it did not look like it was really his fault. There is the car, the Dick Barber Racing number 15. Contact with the Lola, the Banana Joe's Restaurants and Casual Island Party, as they call it. That's a Lola Judd, and watch this, Jeremy, and it's in those S's.
Well, this is what we've been talking about. These guys in these prototypes having to make these moves, and there's just not a lot of room as you go down through the S's. That is, no matter how you look at it, a low percentage pass. And if we look at it again in slow motion, there was really nowhere for either one of these cars to go. You can see the Lola comes down, Gavin squirts through that hole, and there's not much of a hole there, and he's got to avoid that curb on the right. Newman can't really move to driver's left anymore to leave a lot more room, and there you go, you end up with contact.
And the concern is, as you look at Newman's car, Gavin hit him in the front. Newman's got substantial damage to the rear of the car, so that contact threw him into that concrete wall as well. He bounced off that, then slid to a stop. There's Paul, he's out, he's fine. That is, of course, the good news. Now, you made the comment as we go full course yellow, neither car had anywhere to go. And I was wondering about this earlier, all these complaints about these prototype cars getting into the other cars. They have brakes. You know, can't they be a little bit more patient in some of these situations? Well, they also have on a GT car, they've got the acceleration out of the corner.
The door is actually right off that car. That's pretty interesting. That was a pretty hard hit.
Yeah.
You know, Greg, we talked about a little bit earlier, you know, the guys in the P cars having to roll the dice. That area of the racetrack, there's another one of the GT cars, the number 66 car, that looks on the front straightaway.
That's Kevin Buckler's car, the Racers Group entry.
And you know, down through the S's there, that is, if you're in a P car, that is where you're going to lose the most time in traffic, because it's the worst place to pass, and it's about a quarter mile worth of racetrack down there. So, you know, obviously Oliver Gavin, not wanting to lose any time, was trying to sneak through there, and believe me, he's not the only guy in a prototype that has been doing that. Those guys have been doing that regularly down through the S's, and like I said, every time you roll the dice and you just hope for the best.
I understand that, but I mean, even in your basic driving school, they say 2 things. One, keep your line if you're being overtaken. Don't do anything erratic to try and move suddenly, because somebody may have already committed to something. And the second thing, don't they tell you, is it is the responsibility of the overtaking driver to execute a clean pass. And I'm not seeing some of that here. In my opinion, I think some of these incidents could be avoided with some patience.
Well, you know, I honestly don't think that's going to be the first incident we're going to see down through the S's.
I'm sure it won't be.
I mean, we've seen a lot of body slamming today, but if you look at that section of racetrack, and that shot is a perfect shot, you go from apex to apex, and really it's a very difficult passing zone because it's right, left, and there's just no clean way to get by someone going down through the S's. You just can't do it.
Well, I mean, and it's part of that comment I made about the serpentine track. We're on board here now with one of the caddies. Watch the incident. There, right there, is the Lola right in front, and then, of course, in front of him is Newman.
Now, they're coming down through there, as you can see, right, left, right, and there's a little gap there, but, you know, Paul Newman is going for his apex, and Oliver Gavin just thought, okay, I'm going to squirt up through this hole. He may have thought that Newman saw him. Newman may or may not have saw him. But the bottom line is it's a low percentage move down there through the S's.
Well, there's a look at Paul Newman's Dick Barber Racing Porsche going to get loaded on the tilt bed. But Sandy, obviously there must be some disappointment down there in the Banana Joe's pit.
Well, obviously Oliver Gavin was in the car. His team manager is here with me right now, Martin Dixon. What happened out there?
It just looked like he was coming into the S's and behind a Porsche, pulled out to overtake the Porsche. couldn't really sort of say whose fault it was at the moment, but he got tagged by the balls. They both spun off, and Oliver's in the gravel. We don't know how bad the car is at the moment. They're going to drag it back now, and we'll see if we can get it going again. It's a long race, so see if we get a bit more time in it. But see what happens.
Okay, it appears that the car is rolling right now, so you may have a window, an opportunity here to get it back together.
At this moment, I mean, they're saying it's just dragging him out now, so hopefully he's rolling. So when we get back to the pits, we'll just see what happens, and maybe, as you say, have an opportunity to carry on. So we'll just see what the damage is when we get back.
Okay, thanks again. That's Martin Dixon. He is the team manager for the Intersport.
Thanks, Andy. And Oliver Gavin has that car. It's very slowly heading back, but it is heading back as we continue to run under full course yellow for that incident, and of course the cleanup of the blue number 66 Porsche. And I would submit that we're watching high-speed racers on a fast track that's very busy. Welcome back to Road Atlanta. Lots of activity in the pits. Andrew.
A lot of activity. Both the Audis are having 4 fresh Michelins bolted on at this very moment. Dindo Capello has just climbed into the leading car, and Tom Christensen has just climbed into the 78 car. At the front, it's come off the 78. We didn't expect that. A whole load of rubber in the front. Now, I can't see any reason why they have changed the front of that car, but they certainly have. They're losing a bit of time here. Tom Christensen sitting there. Meanwhile, Alan McNish has long gone, and it seems that they have now got this nose on perfectly okay. And now there's still a bit of drama down here. They're trying to push the car. They're pointing to the left front. The clip is not actually on properly. They're taking the body off, and they're trying to refit it. So precious moments being left. Races can be lost at this moment, just a little bit like Le Mans. But meanwhile, they push the 78 car back. I suppose 30 seconds lost there, but now it goes out of the pits. Tom Christensen at the wheel. And meanwhile, we're going to find Alan McNish in just a moment.
Well, Jeremy, possibly a reason for the change of that front clip may have been a legacy of some of the contact earlier.
It's quite possible, and keep in mind that when those noses go on, you can see the headlights in the nose. There's not actually a cord that plugs in. There are spring-loaded pins that make contact with a block that's there. So if that's not lined up properly, they'll never get their headlights on. And if that's going to be the nose that's going to stay on the car until it gets dark, they've got to make sure they get that nose on properly.
Well, that stop has been completed, and of course a quicker one once again for now it's Capello behind the wheel of the lead number 77 Audi, up a lap as a result of that, and doing a nice job out there as well. And we want to remind you, certainly, McNish, of course, that Audi has been leading. There's been a bit of drama for the 78 car, and that's opened the window a little bit for the 42 BMW in the hands of Leto and Mueller. Lots of activity, of course, the team car, the number 43 car, having that flip, taking them out. Now problems as well for the two Panos cars, just dropping back a couple of laps, as we have seen. Now, in the GT division, it's the number 4 Corvette of Andy Pilgrim, Kelly Collins, and Frank Freon currently leading in that class. And really, there hasn't been a whole lot of drama in the GTS division. It's been swapping of positions. Pit stops have played a role. Of course, we saw the Viper with the tire getting cut down due to some debris on the track, apparently, or some contact. There was the big black mark along the side of the car, so one would suspect contact. That has played a role in them going to the front, but it's those 5 GTS cars, the 2 Vets and the 3 Vipers, still literally 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th on the track. And then it's Randy Popes, Bruno Lambert, and Anthony Lazzaro leading in the GT category, and they've been swapping it back and forth with the Barber cars. It's been a good battle. And Sandy, it looks like Ron Fellows getting on board the Vet.
Is getting inside the vet right now. They're also have changed the 2 tires. They're taking on fuel. We talked about this earlier. The fuel economy has been a real concern for the team manager, Doug Feehan. He said that would be one of the critical factors in today's race, and that indeed is what is happening. And we'll go try to track down the driver in just a minute.
Well, certainly, Jeremy, Ron Fellows, one of the fastest drivers in any type of equipment. Was it a couple of years ago? He got a one-off ride in a prototype Ferrari at Mosport and shattered the track record in qualifying. Doesn't matter what he drives, he's awfully quick. And he's also proven to be a great team leader.
Yeah, he won that race in that Ferrari at Mosport. But you know what? The key is that he has been the guy that has developed this car. He's got more time in these Corvettes than anyone else. He's more familiar with it. He knows what this car needs. He knows how to get this car through a race. And, you know, the guys have already talked about the fact that this car has not yet won one of these long-distance races. Yes, they did win one of the sprint races, but, boy, winning these long-distance races is very, very different. You know, it's a very, very different situation than winning the sprint races.
No question about it. Fellow's now on his way out. Now, finally in this race, Alan McNish has stepped up from behind the wheel. Andrew?
Alan, you were in the car for 3 hours. Are you Superman?
I don't know about that. And the car is very, very good to drive. That's the one thing we have with the Audi. And also, Michelin have got a good tyre around here, and so it's comfortable. And when it's comfortable, it makes it look easy. But in reality, it's not. Most of it's not down to me.
I don't know if the camera can go in tight. There's not a bead of sweat here on this forehead. Unbelievable. Alan, you told me before the start you'd gone for a slightly softer setup and you'd gone for a bit more downforce. A good decision.
Yeah, it was. The first stint we had a slow puncture in the left front tyre, which meant the balance wasn't quite so nice. We changed tyres under full course yellow, and after that it was very, very good. It was very, very good.
What about the traffic problems? Have you touched anyone?
No, I haven't touched anyone. Been very close on a couple of occasions. Some of the back markers, well, to be honest, it feels like it's the first race because they really don't know where they're going. I think they're overawed by the fact that cars are passing them at, 70, 80 miles an hour faster.
Alan, you're a star. We can catch up with another Englishman now, Justin Bell, who's with Sandy.
Well, Justin is here right now. You seem to stay out of trouble there. I guess you probably witnessed a lot, though, in front and behind you.
Yeah, it was pretty active. There were cars, going straight on at turn 3, and there was one of the Vipers got hit, and I managed then to have a great fight with one of the other Vipers, and it's all a bit close going down under braking a couple of laps in a row, but we got past, and we just keep losing out on the pace car. The leader had just overtaken me, and when the pace car came out, so we lost another lap. But I guess we're supposed to sort of work for our supper today.
And you're doing a good job at it.
Thank you. We're having fun. The temperature's good. At Texas, for Ron and Andy, the car was up over 175 degrees in the car. It's almost like a road Corvette today. It feels so nice compared to normal. But it's a great track, and the traffic is generally behaving very well. But boy, those Audis and those penalties, they come up very, very quickly. So you have to keep your eyes open.
Okay, that's Justin Bell. We'll give you a rest. I know you're going to be taking another stint in just a little bit.
Well, Justin talking about the car feels good and is comfortable, but Jeremy, you just made an observation here. That Audi apparently is awesome, and plus the open cockpit, the driver rotations are vastly different.
Well, Justin looks a little more tired than Alan McNish. Of course, the Corvette guys have been through their driver lineup already. The Audi guys just starting with their first driver swap with Alan McNish getting out.
That's unbelievable. And you heard Alan McNish say that the Michelin tire's doing a great job. There's nothing like a good transition. When we come back, Herb Johnson from Michelin will be joining us here in the booth. Welcome back, where we are in the midst of our third full course caution and just shy of 3 hours in this 1,000-mile or 10-hour event. Now, of course, this is some great sports car racing. There's other great sports car racing going on. It's the B.F. Goodrich Tires Trans Am Series. They're racing at Houston, and coverage will come your way right here in Speed Vision at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday, October 13th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. B.F. Goodrich Tires Trans Am Championship action from Houston, Texas. A great points battle going on there as well. Brian Simmel and Paul Gentilozzi. As we said, we have Herb Johnson here in the booth. And Herb, the obvious question that I think is, first of all, on everyone's minds, we're about ready to go back to green, so if you can hang around for a little bit, we'll keep coming back to you. Michelin's going F1 next year. What does that mean for sports car racing?
Well, it really helps sports car racing because we'll continue our development effort here as well as with Formula One. They go hand in hand. Our Formula One effort is driven a lot by our OEM partners like BMW, Toyota, who's coming in 2002, as well as Jaguar. That's the same thing that drives our ALMS involvement, our partnership with Chrysler, BMW, Audi, and Porsche. So we'll still be here in ALMS and strong as ever.
All right, and of course, the Audi team, one of the teams that is really showcasing the Michelin program. Let's go down quickly to Andrew Marriott with an update on the number 78 Audi of Frank Villa.
Yes, certainly. Well, you saw that the 78 car had the nose change. I found out that was a particular problem they had. It had hit somebody. There was a bit of damage to the car. They were worried it didn't have quite so much downforce. So that was changed. Then the car came in again. The situation there was in changing the nose. They found there was a problem with some rubber in a brake duct or something like that. So they cleared that out. No real problem. The car's back on the racetrack.
Thank you, Andrew. We were just riding on board with Frank as he's working his way through some traffic. There's your leader. We are on board now, and it's Ronaldo, or as they call him, Dindo Capello, on board the 77 Audi. And there's that traffic we're talking about. Outside now, then down the inside of one of the vets into turn 6, and very clean.
And of course, on these restarts, that's when everyone is grouped together, and that's when your job is the toughest, because everyone is grouped together on the racetrack. It's not like everyone is spread out and you have that normal flow. And so that is what creates a lot of tension. And of course, one of the earlier yellows, we saw a lot of action on the restart. Here is the telemetry going down into what used to be the dip. It's still a pretty serious downhill, not quite as steep as it used to be, a little over 180 miles an hour down into that braking zone. Very, very grippy braking zone. You can go incredibly late on the brakes down into the chicane there. And now through turn 12 onto the main straightaway.
Turn 12 still has its old characteristics, though. That is an incredible corner, leading it right into another one, turn 1.
173 miles an hour into turn 1, and that is really remarkable. And you know, we've talked about these cars and the development that has been done on these cars. And of course, anyone that used to watch the GTP cars here at Road Atlanta, these cars now are pretty much at that speed, and they're not as they're not as powerful. They don't create as much downforce. They've really developed these cars incredibly in the last couple of years.
Let's go back to Herb Johnson for a minute. Herb, the shared technology, obviously, you would suspect anybody, any division of Michelin in terms of a racing program would benefit with the F1 involvement. But there's all this concern about the cost of running a tire program in F1. Is that not going to be any kind of drain on the sports car program?
You know, Greg, it really isn't. You know, in a lot of ways, we'll use less tires for F1. If you think about it, these guys in ALMS probably do a lot more testing than the guys in Formula One, actually.
Whoa, look at that move! And he got through. I'm sorry, Herb, to jump on you, but one of the Panos cars, while Capella was trying to work his way around the Olive Garden Raffinelli Lolo, one of the Panos cars unlapped himself, Jeremy.
They got a lap back down into the chicane there with a great move. A little bit of traffic there, 3 wide down into the chicane, and a great move up the inside. That car was shown 3 laps down, so a couple of laps down now for that Panos.
Of course, Capello just getting on board, you might suspect it would take him a few laps to really acclimate to where the car is now. Obviously, the traction and the characteristics of the track have changed from the last time he was in the car in the warm-up session. So he's got a little bit of time to get used to it. And obviously, that Panos in the hands of Brabham is saying thank you. Well,
one of the keys to endurance racing, of course, is how tough each driver is on the car, and that goes back. Boy, this is always a dodgy pass into 7. And that is one of the issues when you have more than 2 drivers. You know, each guy is tough on the race car in their own way, and the key is to be as easy on the car as you can. So when you hand it off to the next guy, the car is in good shape, and that means everyone can be more effective. You don't have to work the car quite as hard. And we know Alan McNish is easier on tires, and Alan McNish didn't seem to be struggling with this car, so we're going to assume this car is in pretty good shape, and he's certainly settled in, running right now in the 1:16 range in terms of lap time, so that's a pretty quick lap time.
Boy, that was some great battling, even though it was just to unlap yourself. Still in all, with a lot of racing left to go, you don't give up. So we continue now just past the 3-hour mark here, as we said, of the 10 hours or 1,000 miles. Herb, I hope you can stick around for just a little bit more. We'll be right back. Well, as we said, we have just completed the 3rd hour here at Road Atlanta, and it too has been fraught. There is the right front tire, apparently cut by contact of the 91 Viper. His tire stayed on. He was able to get that down into the pits, bring the car around. However, right after a driver's change, the 66 Porsche looped right in front of Jörg Mueller, who must wonder about racing here at Road Atlanta. And he had an off-course excursion. He stayed with it. Meanwhile, the battle of the Vets and the Vipers continued. Look at that move down the inside by the number 3 Vet to pick up a spot. Later on, one of the Vipers in the pits, a brake fire. And Jeremy talked about it. There's certainly brake and carbon fiber, but also rubber and other types of debris that the heat of those brakes when the car stops can ignite. Watch this. Oliver Gavin and Paul Newman, the number 15 Porsche. P.L. Newman back behind the wheel at Road Atlanta, but only for a few laps as Gavin clubbed him a good one. And Newman ended up against the barriers. He's fine, but he's out of the car. And the Lolo spent a lot of time in the gravel down there in Turn 5. So that's a look at Hour 3 of this 9th round of the American Le Mans Series. We'd like to take a moment and go through a couple of email questions here because they concern the same topic. First of all, Corey Turner, he emailed in, what does the future hold for Cadillac? And Jeremy, there's been a lot of ongoing development with that program, both in terms of chassis and engine.
Well, I think right now it's a little bit uncertain. You know, they've made a very solid commitment to sports car racing, but at the same time, about a month ago, they announced a big change, which is that Riley and Scott was no longer going to run that program for them. And you know, they've tested a turbocharged version of the car, which is of course what they're racing, and a non-turbocharged car they've tested. And so right now it's a little bit uncertain. Obviously they will be working on their plans for 2001. You know, their big focus is to go and win the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
It looks like they are going to continue the factory team and the independent supported team. And that's a good idea too, because I think you get two different approaches and all that information. By the way, I want to remind you, today's Petit Le Mans is interactive. You can go to speedvision.com, click on the link, and send your email questions and comments. They'll come directly to our booth right here at Road Atlanta, and that is what we're reading. There was another one, Jeremy, from Eric Zapal from Clearwater, Florida. Does Cadillac build their own chassis?
Well, this car is a Riley and Scott designed car. It's a carbon car, and that is where the car has come from. So it is, you know, again, the whole program kind of in review. Remember, let's go back a year and think about the Audi that debuted at Sebring in the spring of 1999, and that was a car that was not particularly effective. What did they do? They regrouped that program over the winter of 99-2000. They built and developed a new car. They debuted that car at Sebring, dominated the race, and so that's the kind of commitment it takes, and that is what Cadillac is going to have to do. You know, this year has been a learning year. They've learned a lot with these race cars, as Audi did a year ago, and to really be effective, they're going to have to come back with that kind of commitment and probably build new cars. You know, I think what they've done is they've realized, okay, this is a package, this is what it does, now we need to move forward, because Le Mans is a very special type of race, and in terms of winning that race, it requires a very specific approach.
Now, we've been watching that beautiful black Motorola Cadillac going around. That's that independent factory supported team from the DAMS program, and the principal of that is Jean-Paul Driot, and he is with Andrew Marriott.
Yes, he is. We just look at these pictures of the lawnmower Cadillac here. The Cadillac lawnmower over there.
No, but I mean, you know, we had a little problem after 1 hour of racing with the steering wheel. It was not very good, and the drivers were starting to say so. And then after, in about 20 minutes ago, he went off into the grass, and we stopped him to check, and there is one broken steering arm, and for safety reasons, we are changing everything at the front, both steering arms and the uprights.
My fellow commentators in the booth are asking, what's the future for Cadillac and what's the future for your team? Going to stay in this form of racing?
Yes, that's for sure. That you know, I have committed to Cadillac last year. I was running a Lola, we were winning races, but I mean, I committed with these people because they have a 3 years program. I know that they want to do it properly. It was a tough learning year, but it's indeed the toughest time that you learn and you happen to know each other very well. And you know, I hope that we will be able to carry on with them for good this once.
Have you got a personal view on which chassis you should be using, which chassis manufacturer?
No, I think that Cadillac and the GM Racing people have reviewed everything because it was a very painful situation. They have reviewed very objectively, and they know what it takes now in order to be competitive at Le Mans with this kind of racing, and we know what kind of budget Audi is investing. So now, knowing all these facts, I think that they have taken the right decision, and I think that things will be announced to the public and to the press people within a couple of weeks.
Okay, a couple of weeks, folks, we'll know what they're doing. Thanks, Jean-Paul.
And thank you, Andrew. We're on board with the Olive Garden Lola. And Jeremy, you mentioned the Audi program and its development from the 1 year to this dominant year. Well, at Le Mans, remember, we talked to Andy Wallace. He was with the Audi in their development year. He was with Cadillac in this development year. He thinks they're a little bit further along than Audi was in that first year. A lot of pressure then.
You know, you can sum it up in one word: commitment.
Yeah.
You know, and how committed are you to it, and what kind of resources do you want to put forward to do that? Audi I mean, you know, as he just said, Audi really did commit to it. They put the budget forward, and they dominated at Le Mans with the 1-2-3. That's what it takes. That's, you know, if you want to play the game, that's what it takes.
Well, and it takes some invention as well. I mean, Audi going with that quick change complete rear end assembly where they can just back the entire gearbox and rear suspension off a car and swap it out in 5 minutes. I mean, it's revolutionary stuff like that that again plays into that commitment comment. Watching the Cadillac right now working through some of the traffic we've been talking about. I've got to bring up one more email because this one I think is a very special and heartfelt one. It's from some folks in Pennsylvania, Mike and Christine Pitko, and they said when you consider the past, hearing Jeremy Dale broadcast from Road Atlanta makes them thankful and very, very happy. And they wanted us to pass that along. Nice to have you in the booth here, bud. And they wondered, are you going to be able to race again?
Well, every so often, you know, my day job is managing the Barber Dodge Pro Series. Of course, Herb supports us in that endeavor, you know, an open wheel series for up-and-coming drivers, and I manage that championship. And every so often, I sit myself down in one of those cars and do some laps. And you know, I haven't had any problems in terms of speed in the race car. I've had problems in terms of my fitness level and my joints, my knees, my ankles, my feet. And you know, I can kind of get around okay, but driving at this level, you know, when we did 24-hour races, I happily did, you know, 10 hours out of 24 hours, and to function at that level takes an incredible level of fitness. I'm just not sure I can get to that point, but certainly sitting here watching these guys makes it that much tougher.
I can only imagine. Herb Johnson's still here, and Herb, we know you've got things you need to be doing as well, but one more question for you. It was interesting. I understand that Michelin is not exactly going into this F1 program from scratch. You know, now they have the groove tires and that. But I understand that Michelin has continued to build Formula One spec tires, and they've been testing them on machines. So it's not like you don't have some sort of information base. And of course, now you've got a nice test program going. But you guys aren't starting from scratch.
No, we really aren't, Greg. For probably the last 5 years, we've been looking at F1, kart, IRL, and doing a lot of internal machine testing. So we aren't really starting from a clean sheet of paper. So we think when the season rolls around next year, don't want to be overconfident, but certainly we'll be very competitive.
Well, you know, one thing about Michelin, at the upper levels of the sport, when Michelin gets involved, it's up against some other tire manufacturers. You're going up against Bridgestone. In this series, you've got 3 or 4 different manufacturers. You've got to be very proud of the fact that a race ago, you guys clinched that tire battle here. You've got, you know, so many wins already this season. It's been a great year for Michelin.
It really has, and it goes back to what you were talking about with the Cadillac and Audi programs. It's all about commitment. We're clearly committed. We'll remain committed and look forward to more success.
Herb, from strictly a marketing standpoint, you must be thrilled about the success of the U.S. Grand Prix.
Absolutely. We were there last weekend, and our hat's really off to Bernie Ecclestone and his organization, as well as Tony George and all the folks at ALMS. For those of you that were there, it was just a spectacular event. I don't think the Europeans had even seen anything like that before.
It was a very spectacular event. I was fortunate enough to be there, and it's something that you don't soon forget, no question. Herb, thanks so much for stopping by. Good luck again, not only for the rest of this season, but with your venture into Formula One next year. It's going to be a lot of fun to follow. We watched a pit stop by one of those damn Motorola Cadillacs. They're back out, and we'll be back to Road Atlanta right after this. That's what it looks like for your leader, Dindo Capelli, on the number 77 Audi as he heads out of turn 7 here at Road Atlanta in the Petit Le Mans and makes the long, long run up into the turn 10 chicane area. And Jeremy, what, 170, 175 miles an hour before they get into that braking zone?
A little more than that, Greg, about 185 as they go down the hill here. And as I said before, this braking zone, even though it's downhill, incredibly grippy in that braking zone. That's one of the reasons why we see so many great passes coming down into that braking zone. Now, under the bridge, don't even bother going to the apex. And there's the speed, 150 miles an hour through turn 12, down the front straightaway. And then hard on the brakes, about a G, little over a G of brake pressure, braking level, pushing you forward in the seat as you go into that braking zone.
And 2.5 Gs or more through turn 1. I mean, the side loading in these cars is absolutely unbelievable.
And you'll see a big side load going down here. Over 2 Gs, popped up over 3 there going down through the S's.
Is that spike legitimate? it just sort of spiked suddenly way up there. That just
well, it was up well over 2 Gs. So you know, and I wouldn't be surprised. These cars do create some good downforce.
Yes, as Bill Oberlin can tell you, I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable the amount of air that these cars move and manage as they come working through here. On board here with Dindo, and he comes by now some of those GT cars, and there's that closing speed.
Well, look at it pegging the acceleration meter on the right there as he was accelerating. It'd be interesting to watch the braking here as he goes in. He's got a couple of cars in front of him. Now, keep in mind, those guys are, look at that, 1.7 Gs on braking. And keep in mind, those guys are racing each other. They're passing each other going into that braking zone, and he slides right up the inside.
Now, that new chicane area that really changed the complexion of what was a very famous turn up and underneath the bridge, didn't it?
It really did. I mean, the dip, it used to be more elevation change there. It would go down deeper into a hollow and then climb back up with a very fast, you know, depending on the car, 190 miles an hour down through that dip and up the hill there, and into what was a fourth gear corner under the bridge. So it has changed it a lot, but in a way it's added a better, safer braking zone, and of course, you know, there was the possibility to have very big accidents there at the bridge.
Well, and it also created an extra a very nice overtaking area, which is pleasant. I remember you'd come up through that dip, and then you'd apex, you'd point the car at the inside, I mean at that concrete wall on the inside of the bridge, and let the slip angles carry you past that and down the hill. So one misstep there, that was a little tough as well. You know, we're talking about watching these cars go around this track and the action and the speed. Well, that's what attracts fans to racing. Some fans, though, get into it just a little bit more than others, and you never know where they come from. Sandy gives us a clue.
Take a look at this, guys. It looks like a photo, but it's actually pencil creations done by Glenn Knight. He's a huge fan of sports car racing. He's here today. I see you got a NASA t-shirt on. Tell us about that. You come here from NASA?
Yeah, well, I'm actually here on my own, but I'm a computer graphics specialist at NASA Langland Research Center, and me and Rick Langland's come down, and we're enjoying the race. Favorite race of the year, the Petit Le Mans.
And looks like these take, what, hundreds of hours to create?
Usually 500 to about 3,000 hours, 1,500 hours, somewhere in that range. They're only original black and white with a little bit of color, and I keep them and get the drivers to autograph them. And my hero here is John Paul Jr., and I've been to 4 races this year to see him run, and we're real excited about being here.
I know you're telling me you drove all night to get here. You have a special message for him?
Oh yeah, we drove all night, and we want John to finish the race and then try to get a podium finish, and we felt like we were in a race to get here all night long from Virginia. We're all pretty tired.
Well, this super fan, Glenn Knight.
Yeah, tired, but he's grinning, boy, because he is at the Petit Le Mans. You know, that Jaguar shot 16 years ago, a couple of guys named Brian Redmond and Hurley Haywood won right here at Road Atlanta in that Group 44 Bob Tullius owned Jaguar. Pretty remarkable performance there as well. They were actually racing. They had a Beetle Super Cup race. Both of them were racing hard around this track actually earlier today. Pretty amazing deal for them. And Hans Stuck ended up taking the win in that one. But it was great to see some of the great names from motorsport having an absolute blast in the Beetle. Speaking of fun, I think Dindo Capelli's enjoying this drive. We know Alan McNish is. They're up front. Welcome back to the American Le Mans Series, Round 9, the Petit Le Mans here at Road Atlanta, and Speed Vision's unprecedented live flag-to-flag coverage of endurance racing around the world, and this has certainly become one of the premier events. We're on board with Dindo Capelli in the Audi here, and interestingly, at Texas, they looked set for a win. Then they had a radio problem, and as a result, they missed a pit stop opportunity, had to give the win to their team car, and one of the reasons was they couldn't see the pit signaling board. And Andrew Marriott, I understand there's some concerns that have been raised about that right here.
Well, not really concerns, Greg. You know, one of the strategies we use when we're in the pits is to check out when the cars are coming. We look at the pit boards and see them counting them down. I'm looking at the pit board now. It says 24 laps to go. So I know I don't have to be down in that pit for JJ Leto coming in. But what Audi have done, they have a problem here because they are in the very, very first pit. The drivers are still coming out of the last turn. They're still committed. They certainly can't look at the pit boards. So what Audi have done very cleverly, this is typical Yost, they moved the pit signaling down to over halfway down the pits. I'm looking at it right now, and you can see it. So just another little bit of the very, very clever whichever way, and Reinhold Jost always works these things out. And it's things like that that make the difference between winning and losing.
Andrew, look at that. I mean, not only did Reinhold Jost and the Audi team figure out where to put it, but they have it as absolutely state-of-the-art.
That is, without question, the most sophisticated pit board I have ever seen. That is truly incredible. You know, and it just goes to show you the level of detail that these guys commit themselves to make this team function properly and smoothly. And if they have a problem, if they recognize a mistake, they fix it and they do it in the right way.
On board with Capelli again, working up over those curves there in the turn 5 here. Let's go back down to the Audi pit, this time with Sandy Hang.
Well, we've talked so much about the machinery, the questions of endurance when it comes to technology, but it's also the mind, the psychology behind this, trying to stay loose. It's a game of hurry up and wait, and this is one of those periods of time where they must wait, watch, and be ready. And it is tedious. It is a game of psychology. And as you can see, the drivers are here. They're telling jokes, trying to stay on their feet and ready. They know that they've got to be ready in about 15 minutes when they'll come in for another refueling. Until then, they try to stay sharp and just hang in there.
That's a very good point, and sometimes we don't talk enough about the team aspect of this. And you know, if your crew is not, as Sandy pointed out, psychologically prepped, sometimes that's when mistakes happen in the pits, and that can be very costly, even in a long-distance endurance race. Calvin, you're down there in the pits watching that all the time, and there is absolutely no question of that.
Well, these races are tough, Greg, as Sandy mentioned. I mean, it's really an endurance event for the drivers and the crews and everyone else, and you've got to be on your toes, because you can be sitting there relaxing. Suddenly you see a full caution period, driver makes a mistake, gets involved with someone, and you've got to be ready to go immediately. So if we were looking at some telemetry of the drivers, of the mechanics' heart rate, they'd be up and down as well, I think, during the event.
With Capello again, and he went around the car, and he raised his hand and gestured, and I couldn't really tell if it was a quick wave to say thanks for getting out of my way, or if it was another gesture to say, why did you get in my way? Obviously, these drivers, and Jeremy, again, we get back to the track, the twisty, undulating nature of it, and the fact that you don't want to give up time. Even though they've got a lap in hand, we've seen that go away in a hurry.
Well, let's watch this car now. Look at the group of cars that these Audis are coming into. There's a whole gaggle of cars here. There's one of the Vipers running up the inside, and actually remarkably patient there in terms of not diving up the inside of the BMW and the Viper and trying to take those positions.
Well, I think he was very concerned with, because he may have got the Viper, but that Bimmer was up in front, and I don't think he was at all secure in the knowledge that BMW maybe had seen him, and you hate to have that car turn across and club you.
Well, I think you have to be decisive when you make the moves, Greg. That's when you when you're hesitant is when you get yourself in trouble. You need to get the car in there, make sure the other car sees you, rather than being halfway alongside and trying to back out of it, and then they close the door on you.
I mean, no, Calvin, I think that's, one of the, looks like the Viper, yes, off the road. I saw that car run, whoa!
Nearly took the Audi out when he came back on.
Look at the grass and clippings now up in those radiator ducts as well.
Boy.
Well, you know what? The Audi went around him through that left-hander, dropping into the S's, and I think when they went back, I don't think the Viper here, number 61, could get the car back down to the apex, and if your rhythm's messed up in there, you're off.
And, you know, Calvin, you said something. You want to make sure the other car sees you, but I'll tell you what. I think half the time, maybe a third of the time, the guys in the GT cars, especially, that prototype is rolling up on them so fast.
Right.
And, you know, with this racetrack, I mean, okay, we've got a long straightaway here on the back, but so much of this stuff is interconnected. There's so much elevation change, and I think you just catch the other car so fast. And I think those guys, even though they know the closing rates are quick, it's just so fast that it's hard to really anticipate how quickly that's all going to happen.
It's very difficult for both the GT drivers. We saw Carl Wendling again out of the car. He's very mad when the Panos ran into him. They've got slower cars to deal with, but these P cars are just taking every opportunity they can to slice their way through, and it's very difficult to see. I mean, the backs of the cars get dirty. It's tough to see out of the windshields. We lose mirrors on the race cars. There's a lot going on. You're twisting and turning. You're doing your own thing, so you don't see the faster cars come up. Now we see that Viper in the pits, Greg.
Yeah, that's the Chamberlain Motorsport entry of it's Milka Duno, Steve Watson, and Xavier Pompidou. Let's go back and take a look at the replay. And look how, see, he's pushing off already.
Well, the Viper very wide of the apex there, coming down the hill through the S's, and there was really no hope to get that car online. But look at the other Audi right there and how close that is. And as a matter of fact, that car up over the curb to avoid contact and really almost crashed.
That was Christensen, I think, unless he's done another driver change. Christensen behind the wheel, and he was trying to give it plenty of room.
Yeah, that was Christensen indeed. And our GTS leader, the number 4 Goodwrench Services vet, is down in the pits, Andy.
Well, Andy Pilgrim just got in the car. Frank Freon is now out. You can see they're strapping him in. You can also see, if you look at the nose of the car, they've taken on a lot of rubber, and they're also been in the grass. You can see the intake when they're trying to take air in. They've got a little bit of clogging there, but they're probably going to be dusting that off as they take on the 2 left side tires right now at this point. Again, Andy Pilgrim is now in, preparing for his stint in the Corvette.
Now, did you see that? That was key, Calvin. You know this from being in the pit lane. The mechanic pulled a brand new wheel nut off his belt there so as to put a new wheel nut on there and keep a fairly fresh part on there. And those wheel nuts, of course, they are generally made from aluminum so that if anything strips, it's not the hub, it's the nut, but better to put a fresh nut on and keep fresh parts on the car.
Well, they also keep those on their belt, because if they pull one off and it goes skipping down pit lane, then you don't have to look around chasing it either. So again, that gets back to that preparation, the teamwork aspect of this. Get the car in and out of the pits as quick as possible. And Andrew, they continue to execute it beautifully.
They do. I just wanted to talk about that wheel nut situation there. I found out, I'm not sure, I was supposed to find out because I was going around the Panos factory on Wednesday, that they run aluminum lug nuts in the qualifying, but when they go to the race, they switch to steel ones. They just think they're that bit stronger.
Well, that is interesting, but again, still wanting to use the new component all the time is definitely a wise move. On board and clubbing the curbs coming out there. Those new tires taking a moment or two to warm up. We'll be back to Road Atlanta in the Petit Le Mans. Endurance racing takes on lots of different faces. Those are the crew, those are the drivers, those are the fire marshals. And those of, as I mentioned, the drivers, sometimes it's a little bit nervous. A little bit of nervous consolation coming for Bill Oberlin. Why? Well, in hour 2 on lap 60, Bill Oberlin became a pilot momentarily. He was able to get out, walk away, but there's no doubt that something like this certainly gets your attention and perhaps makes you think. Look at this in slow motion once again. That Olive Garden Raffinelli Lola just moved over, trying to pass that other car, and it took the air, as Bill said, off the nose of his car to the extent it pulled him forward in the cockpit and snapped the visor open on his helmet from the vacuum that car generated, and up and over he went. Now look at this. This is very interesting here. There is the 3rd place Audi, the red and silver, number 78. The overall leader right in front of him, in the hands now of Ronaldo Capello, and right in front of them is the 2nd place BMW, currently driven by Jörg Mueller. And did you see get Mueller, that lap car out of the middle? That's a battle for position.
Well, did you see Mueller pull over to the right very, very quickly there as he went over the crest on the back straightaway there? He knew he wasn't going to pass him. That's not what he was doing. All he was trying to do was get clean air to the front of that car.
Well, Oberlin made the comment that he had constantly been trying to do that, make sure he had at least part of that, of the nose of the car if he was chasing somebody, as they came up to that, what they call Station 8 section of the track, in some sort of air. And obviously that is something that all these drivers are. Oh, big wiggle. That was our leader. That was our leader, Capello. And he got caught out, had to pinch it down going into turn 1, and it almost got away from him. Big save. But that's, well, I thought he might now let Christensen
there
through,
coming off of turn 1, Greg, and you see the traffic problems once again. Now he's right on the tail of the number 2 car. As they come out of turn 5, look like he got a better run there, anticipating passing him on the left. As they head down into 6, GT Porsche slower car up in front. Gets tight once again there. I mean, you're really just hoping that these guys in these slower cars see you. I mean, you poke your nose down in there and you're just praying that they don't turn down on you.
And unfortunately for his teammate, who was very close to a race for 2nd to make a pass, got held up badly by the wiggle by Capello, and has now lost touch with that BMW. Let's go back and take a look at that moment in turn 1. And it was pretty substantial.
Well,
what come now down out of 12.
What he's trying to do here is get a run on the BMW. The BMW gets past the Panos, which is not running quite as quickly. And so now it's like, okay, I'm going to duck up the inside, go to power, and you go to power with these powerful cars like that, and you're trying to pinch the car down, not let it be free through the apex, and that's what you're going to get.
So all the hard work done by Christensen as he got bogged down behind Capello at that point. has gone to for naught, and now he's got to do that again to try and reel in the number 42 entry. Now, we earlier watched the pit stop for the Corvette down in pit lane, and Sandy, Frank Freon got out of the car. I understand he's with you.
Yeah, he's with me right now. Just a reminder, guys, Frank won Le Mans, won his class back in '96. He knows all about endurance racing. Now, you're staying on the same lap as the Viper. How is it out there?
Yeah, it's a big fight, and that's great because it's good competition for the fan and the public. But I mean, the team Chevrolet Viper, Chevrolet Corvette, the fight with the Viper is extremely intense.
I noticed that you're third in class at this point. Were you making any progress during your stint of overtaking?
Yeah, in fact, I mean, we're in the same lap after 133 laps, so I think it's great, and I think we have good chances. It's going to be great.
Okay, again, that's Frank Freon.
Thanks very much, Sandy. And we have now watched Tom Christensen as Capello let him slide through. Now Christensen can take the chase up once again, Cal.
Well, he's done a great job this year. He's unbeaten in this car this year, Greg. He won at Le Mans, he won at Sebring, and the rumor mill is, with Alan McNish moving on, that Tom Christensen may become a full-time pilot for the Audi squad next year.
Well, with his results, a lot of people have speculated that was going to happen. They've said the guy has an immensely successful and long-term future in sports cars when he decides to quit super touring racing, which is what he's really focusing on in Europe. And I think McNish moving on might just be the opportunity he's been waiting for, because he doesn't want to move without a full-time flight, top flight seat.
Absolutely. I spoke to Reinhold this morning, and he said, well, we're looking at that. He smiled. He wouldn't commit to the decision, but he said the important thing is we really like Tom. He fits in well with the team. He's a team player. He's exceptionally fast, and he struggled a bit in that touring car. I spoke to Tom this weekend. He said he actually won the final 2 rounds of the championship over there, so that Honda program really turned around for him.
Yeah, he has absolutely excelled, though, in the sports prototypes, and it's good news that even if it's still rumor, it's pretty well-founded rumor that he will be a full-time pilot in a Le Mans prototype car. That's good news indeed. There's your top 5. We are back at Road Atlanta, and we have a battle brewing. We talked about the fact that Capello let Tom Christensen through, and Christensen now has taken up the chase. Traffic once again has helped out Jörg Mueller just a little bit. There on your screen, the red and silver Audi is Tom Christensen, and not that far in front is the white BMW. Briefly, that margin was down to about a half second. It looks like it's ballooned up again to about a second and a half due to traffic. But Christensen, once he gets through the traffic, he seems to really be able to reel in that car. And you saw the lights flashing there on the BMW. Mueller doing anything and everything he can to try and clear a path.
Well, he has no choice, and he did get by the Lola. So one car right now, look at this, 3 wide down into the chicane.
3 wide prototype GTS and GT.
And welcome to sports car racing, multi-class sports car racing on a circuit that really, it's pretty dodgy on this racetrack because there are so many elevation changes, so many blind corners, and you really have to stay on your toes. And these guys, as I said before, we call this endurance racing. This is now really, sprint races over a long period of time is what this is. You can see a little bit of dust in the air there. Someone has dropped a wheel somewhere. So these guys pushing very, very hard constantly and just taking chances, taking risks, rolling the dice, hoping that they can get through this traffic all the time.
You talked earlier, Jeremy, about the strategy involved with some. Here we see the Audis trying to get inside the Olive Garden Lola. They're going down into turn 6. I think there's a vet in the action also. Some drivers, you have 2 drivers on some teams, 3 on others. And I spoke to Klaus Graf, who's running with the Panos team. They said the reason that David and Jan Magnussen decided to go with 2 drivers is to bring someone in who's not familiar with that particular car. It's very difficult here at Road Atlanta. There's so much elevation change, and where you sit in the Panos, you're way far back, that long nose. He said there's 3 corners here where you're literally 1 second without seeing the road. Right. So to commit to it, particularly with traffic and everything else, you're accident and mistake prone. So they decided, David and Jan, to take it under themselves to really go for it. Very difficult car to drive. The conditions are working for them. Cool conditions here today, unlike last year.
Well, and part of the traffic situation is simply when you catch it too. We just watched the BMW caught and got around the Olive Garden Lola in a fairly easy spot, and then the 78 Audi caught him dropping into the S's. And I mean, that's it. You're stopped until you get out. He just barely got by him going to the 6.
The S's is a nightmare because if you get someone coming out of 1, if they sweep across, they can take a line there down through the S's. We saw Field, actually Gavin, try and make the move on PLN earlier. That didn't work. So you're really risking things when you do that.
And now you see, there goes the BMW underneath one of the GT cars, but it took just a moment, and the Audi's coming. There's another GT car there. They both get through, and now that margin is down to just a couple of feet at this stage as they launch and onto that long back stretch. And here we go over the rise, and you saw right there, Christensen moved over just a little bit. Now he's tucked into the draft, and more traffic up front. Christensen's definitely got a toe. He's thinking about it. He makes a move, but there's traffic up front, 3 abreast, and Christensen down the inside. Mueller watches him go. Bit of a wiggle there as well. Definitely on the binders, on the limit, but he made it work. But now Mueller thinking about it. Not going to happen there, and we have a new second place car. Here comes Mueller. He gets a run right to the grass almost. This is not done yet, guys. Here we go. Mueller gets it back. Change of momentum happens just that fast.
Well, the last place you want to catch a GT car is at the apex of turn 12, and that's exactly what happened with the Audi there, and that's what allowed Jörg Mueller to get the run out of 12 down the front straightaway into turn 1 and take that position back.
What happened to the days of endurance racing where you backed off about 20 seconds for the race, Jeremy?
Unbelievable. Like I said, Calvin, it's definitely changed.
Unbelievable the pace. Here we go again. Down into turn 6. This is where it started before. Now there's no lap traffic in between 6 and 7. All depends on who gets a better launch out of 7 here. And boy, Mueller looked pretty strong there.
And look at these guys. They all make sure they're staggered here, make sure they've got clean air over the nose of those cars. Now, a lot of GT cars up ahead here. There's a Cadillac there. There's a Viper. A couple of Porsches up in front of them.
Looks like this time Mueller has a little bit more room coming in here. We'll see if Christensen, no, just too far back at that point, plus all those lap cars in front, Cal.
Tough decision now for Capello. I mean, ideally he'd like to get in front of these two guys in case we get a caution and have a lap on them. Right now, if we got a caution, those guys would effectively make a lap on the 77 machine, so he can't be too aggressive, but ideally he'd like to get in front of both the 78 car and the 42 machine.
Now let's see if this car leaves some room. He does, and Christensen able to get through, but just that little bit there, he lost about 5 car lengths.
And that's the thing. The car left room, but you don't know that that car is going to come down to the apex. Is that car going to go to the apex? Is it not going to go to the apex? Is it going to leave room?
Well, you see the 4th place #1 Panos is in pit lane right now. Brabham staying on board. Don't know what they're going to do about tires. This battle here for second is so compelling right now. It is very much so. Here he goes. Christensen down into turn 6. Knifes down to the inside of Mueller. Made that look relatively easy. Mueller thinks, shows his nose. Not quite. And now with that lap, and here comes, this might be Capello's chance to at least put Mueller down a lap.
And let's not forget, guys, we have a championship on the line here. Mueller's car is leading the championship. The 78 car is in the thick of the battle too. Christensen is not as a driver, but certainly his teammates are. So there's a lot on the line here right now.
See what happens here. Capello moves over. Now he's too far back, but now Christensen has now found second place. And as you point out now, we have to wonder whether Capello's going to be able to show the speed to get back around these guys, put them a lap down. He'd certainly at least like to be able to do that to the BMW.
We've spoken about the fact the 77 cars run a little softer setup, higher downforce. This should make it much better in traffic, and certainly if the conditions get slippy out here, we don't expect it to go that way. We're not seeing brilliant sunshine and high track temperatures, so it should stay pretty consistent today.
Well, Andrew, there's been somebody standing by with you who's been very patient while we've been calling this action, although I suspect he's a bit interested. He's somebody who might be behind the wheel of one of these Audis shortly.
Absolutely, Michele Alboreto, let me tear you away from the Speed Vision coverage. What fantastic racing!
The moment is very good, even if it's a very long race. For us, at the moment, it's not very comfortable, but it looks good, so I waited to go into my car.
You haven't got into the car yet, but I know that in qualifying you were very happy with your speed, because at Sebring you weren't so happy with your speed there, but you're quick here.
In Sebring, the setup of the car was wrong, and I didn't really get into the race. It was a big problem for me. Then we find out the problem, and after that was very good. Here, the car looks good, it's well prepared. Not easy to drive, but quick enough to try to win, so we try hard.
When do you expect to get in the car?
In 1.5 stints, so.
Michele, thanks very much. I can go now to Sandy, I think, who's down in Panos.
Right now, Cato has just gotten out of the car. Klaus Graffelson, they have taken on fuel. They are taking on 4 tires. 1 lap before, you saw David Brabham did duck in. They took on 1 tire, a left front. Now, you may remember he had a little clash with the GT and had a a little clash, so that's changed the front end geometry of the car. We're running down to Audi now, who's just ducked in the pits.
Okay, Sandy, we also see the Olive Garden Lolas, and there's a shot of the Audi, and no driver change on that car at all, so they're going to be staying put. Let's go back down to Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, this is one of those more simple pit stops where they're just fueling it up. Just pulling a little bit of dirt out of the road. That is the noise of a turbocharged Audi V8 engine, the engine which is leading this motor race.
And leading quite comfortably, Calvin.
Yes, they are. And Michele Alboreto, even though we haven't seen him since Le Mans, he's actually been doing a lot of testing for the team over in Europe. So he is not race ready, but he's certainly very sharp in the cars. And as he mentioned, he's a lot happier with the setup here. Alan McNish said the car, everyone talked about how well the car handled the bumps at Sebring. The car was very difficult to drive there. And Michele was struggling in race conditions, was quick on his own on an open lap, but struggled in the race. And now we're down in the Corvette pit, the pit stop for the 3 car, I believe.
Yeah, Sandy, things are happening down there.
Well, Ron Fellows is staying in the car. You can see they've got 2 left sides. They're taking on fuel right now. They're also probably, it appears, maybe just taking on left sides, but they are going to check the temperature. Here we go. Now we can see what's going down.
And number 42, the 3rd place BMW, is down in the pits as well. Mueller will stay on board that car. Looks like they're poised for a tire change, certainly going after the fuel right now. We'll see what happens there. One of the GTS Porsches swings in between all the action here. Mueller talking to somebody on the radio, lots of hand gestures. And again, it's taking time for the fuel. Let's see. Yep, car goes up in the air, Sandy. So it looks like they're going to go after tires.
They are going after tires after taking on fuel here in the BMW pit. There, pops it on, rolls it around. You can see as they do the same on the left rear. Puts it on quickly. And he's down there flagging him off. He's away. Let's go down to Andrew, who's in the Viper pit.
Yes, the Viper pit, and we've got Tommy Archer just climbing out of the car now. We've also got the number 78 Audi has just come in. And lots of action all of a sudden down here in the pit. What is climbing aboard. A lot of smoke coming off the front pads. You can possibly see that in our picture. And we're expecting the second of the 2 Vipers also to come in, the number 91 car, in the next couple of moments.
Boy, that's the 78 Audi that Andrew alluded to, just has retaken 2nd spot recently. You think these drivers work hard? How about these pit reporters, Calvin? I mean, when it happens in a flurry.
Whoa, why do you think Calvin's hanging out with us?
Yeah, Calvin's in the AC in the booth there. It feels pretty good.
This looks like work coming up. I'm going to go see the boys upstairs.
I tell you what, though, I was really critical. If you can double or triple stint, it really gains you a lot in these events, because not only can you not put the tires on until the fueling's done, you've only got 2 wheel guns as well, and that really takes a lot of time.
GTS leader is in, Andrew.
He certainly is, and Carl Wendlinger is about to climb in the car. There's a bit of a problem with the radio connection, which went flying out. I think it was David Donner who was just climbing out there. And well, this is all a bit of a fast and furious session in the pits. The car goes up on the jacks. It's going to have, possibly doesn't have new tires. It goes down again. A few scars on the front of the car also. And the fuel's still going into the Viper here. So we've had both the Vipers in. Lots of action down here in the pits. And of course, this is one of the great things about endurance racing. It really is exciting in the pits. And what a great motor race they've got going on also. Now the Viper here is having a little problem. It's quite downhill, this first part of the pits. There's quite a gradient, and they have to hold the car back. They've got some blocks to hold the car back, and the car started to roll. Now, I don't know if we can just get a picture of it, but look at the front, right in the front of the car. It really is scarred. We just look down there around the headlights there. Lots of scars from the various cars which have been punted into the woodwork.
Well, remember the nose on the Viper after it won the Daytona 24 Hours. It was pitted, it was trashed. There's the number 7 BMW down in pit lane, and it's not just necessarily a standard pit stop, because it had a bit of a moment not long ago out on track that might have hastened the pit stop. Jeremy, it got away from him big time coming down through the S's.
And it didn't look like there was any contact with any other cars, and those P cars, very lucky. Look at the closing right here also on the Viper. So, and I did see as they were changing the tires, I saw on one of our, here is the penalty on the Viper. I saw these guys put this car up on the jack while they were fueling it, which they're not allowed to do. A little confusion there in the Viper pit, so they did get the penalty.
Boy, that's not going to help them, and they're in that very close battle with the number 4 car. You see the 5th place car in GTS of Donahue, Belloc, and Dupuis in the back, and there's the Olive Garden machine. Now the wing is gone, the right front corner is damaged. Mimo Scattarella is behind the wheel of that car, and that's in that same area where the lap before it appeared he took evasive of that BMW, or a couple laps before. Something has happened big time.
Well, and he didn't hit the BMW, and he's trying to now refire the car and get it rolling, see if he can get it back to pit lane. And he's definitely in a bit of a target zone. Now, the P cars down at this point are over 150 miles an hour. Certainly a lot of damage on the right front now. And of course, as you said, Greg, the wing is gone from the back of the car. He's now shut the lights off. Let's see if we've got a replay that might shed a little bit of light on this situation. Well, there you go. That'll do it right there. And again, one of the Audis very close. So there was contact, and then there was probably more contact with the concrete down there. And one of the Audis very close to that situation. So a couple of close calls going down through the S's for the leading Audis.
Guys just seem to get tempted down through it. It looks appetizing for about a second, and once you stick your nose in there, the other guys are committed. You can't get totally out of the way. I mean, these GT drivers have to have a piece of the racetrack. There's getting some marbles out there, as we've seen on some of the camera shots, so you don't want to be too far offline.
That gets back to what I was talking about, a little bit more patience in making your passes. I mean, this is not going to get you a win, and if you'd waited, you know, you might move up a little bit, but understandably, you're going fast and you want to get there in a hurry. So, well, that's it for the Olive Garden machines. So he's parked at least there for a little while, and we are going to take a bit of a break as well. There is one very tired Viper driver.